They frame me in a picture, Sharpie horns on my head, every rumor like a scripture. They repeat what they were fed. Yeah, I'm walking through the whisper, let them burn me in their tails. I keep receipts in my ribcage, every scar, every DD. Call me the villain, paint me in black, blame every crack in your heart on my back. But when the curtains falling and every mask is gone, you'll see the villain was the hero all along. Yeah, I'm the villain. I'm the hero all along.
Teenager sentenced this week to 35 years in prison for killing a fellow high school athlete. On Tuesday, a jury found 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony guilty of murdering 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. His lawyers plan to appeal. They say prosecutors wrongly excluded black people from the jury. Anthony's parents spoke with Jonah Kaplan about their son, the trial, and their message to the Metcalf family.
My son didn't intend to hurt anyone. My son was defending himself.
It took less than 3 hours for a jury to reject 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony's claims of self-defense in the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. Prosecutors argued Anthony intentionally killed Metcalf after being taunted and shoved by Metcalf and his teammates at a high school track meet.
Take us inside that courtroom. What stuck out to you?
What stuck out to me, number one, was the all-white jury. But I was trying to be, like, all right, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, the truth is on our side.
At the sentencing hearing, the defense called only one witness on Anthony's behalf, his mother, Kayla Hayes.
What did you tell the jury?
To have mercy on my son.
What do you say to his grieving family?
It's unfortunate to where nobody wins. We've all been hurt by this. Everybody.
That poor boy is fixing to experience a life that I would not wish upon anyone.
Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff, called Anthony's sentencing bittersweet.
What it boils down to for me is this. Austin will never walk through that door again and never give me a hug.
The case drew national attention, prompting protests in support of both teens. And both families involved say they've received threats.
This morning, I've had multiple emails, texts, threatening me, calling me all sorts of names.
During our interview, the Anthonys made a point to call back one man they say continues to dox them.
Why are you calling me, man?
To make fun of you.
Both families urged supporters to tame their emotions.
I forgave him. But people need to understand about forgiveness. Forgiveness was not for him. Forgiveness was for me, so I don't carry the rage, the hate, and that around. It will eat me up like cancer.
At the end of the day, there's nothing we can say or do for people to accept us.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Jonah Kaplan in McKinney, Texas.
Man. Well, let me bring Joe up. How you all doing this fine evening? How you doing, Joe? Can't hear you.
How about now?
Oh, you good now? You good now?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right, I can't complain. It's another day. It was hot here. It wasn't really that hot here in Chicago, but it was raining real good.
Yeah. Was it hot in Chicago?
Well, it's
I'm in
always hot
Texas,
here.
man.
Oh my God. I was talking about your freedom that you got down there and Jesus, Mary and Joseph. I don't know.
Well, it makes you feel any better. It was a little warm today. It started to feel a little bit like summer. First day that I recall where I'm at. Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into it. Everybody's been waiting. If anything, the question for everyone out there, did Karmelo Anthony get a fair trial? If you want to call into the show, the number is 708-627-0322. You want to call in, talk to us, and we'll go through a lot. We got a lot to cover. There was so much stuff. There's so many lies out there. What do you think about the lies, Joe?
I'll be honest with you. Since this began, it's been it's been full of inconsistencies. When Karmelo Anthony was indicted, he was given on Twitter, on the Twitterverse, on X, they said that he was indicted on first-degree murder. Well, there's not even a first-degree murder in Texas. They did that to sensationalize it, as if it's a worse murder. Murder's bad enough. That's why we look at it in Texas. You kill someone, it's murder. Then also, he was 17 when this happened. So in some states, maybe he's a minor, but in Texas, they were always going to charge him with an adult, as an adult. But there was lies put out as if there was this magical hearing by the judge that said that the judge had determined him to be tried as an adult. There's no facet in Texas to try him as a juvenile. He's 17. You go to big boy jail, you face big boy court there. There was never, that hearing never happened. And then I hear, and it was both sides. Also, there were posts about the bond that Karmelo Anthony got, like he should not have gotten bond. Well, in Texas, he bond. And be quite frank with you, there's not a lot of reasons to keep him in. He doesn't have an extensive criminal history. He's not a flight risk. He's a 17-year-old kid going to high school, so he's not a flight risk. And the parents had ties in the community. Now, he had a high bond, but he was entitled to bond all along. So you have, on both sides, as they sensationalize it, and I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the detriment of Karmelo Anthony. Be honest with you, I think all the dust up is hurt this young man.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things is I heard people say they lowered his bond and they were mad. I'm like, wait. They can't lower his bond. That happens all the time. There's always a court case. And they would man, it was so much going on with this case.
What people are conflating it with, here's the other one. They're talking about the prosecutor didn't ask for the death penalty. Well, his offense didn't qualify for the requirements it would have to have for the state to even ask for the death penalty or for make it a capital offense. He just doesn't meet the criteria in the law. So that's one of it. And lowering the bond, his bond wasn't cheap, but there are provisions. Let's say it's an anonymous killer. He broke into the house and someone was killed, right? Some reason that you probably don't want this person running around in society because of a threat to the public at large. So there are many times people are arrested on murder charges and their bond is typically so high they'll never make it and they won't reduce it. But there's usually grounds for that. But with the Karmelo Anthony case, besides in case you hate the color of his skin, besides that, there's really no reason for a judge or even the state to come up and say, yeah, this guy shouldn't get out of jail prior to him being convicted, because you still have the presumption of innocence in the United States. Yeah. So going back to what you said, there's been lies all over this, all the way through it. And it's really hard to see what's really going on. And I'll tell you, what's really going on is quite simple and it's not complicated. It really is.
Well, since you bring that up, what does it say about murder in Texas? What is the actual statute that comes up?
I got you a slide there. Pull it up. It's right out of the Texas State Penal Code.
Let's see which one it is. Okay.
It says murder.
Self-defense. There we go.
There we go.
Go ahead.
No. Does it say self-defense?
It says self-defense.
I can't pull them up and look at them. I thought I had them go. We'll look at this. A person is justified using force against another when... That's the wrong one, dude.
Okay. Well, you said...
The one that just says murder.
One that just says murder?
I'm sorry, look. Yeah, they all have a label of murder, so I keep them together when I pull them up. But
that's what I'm looking at. So
that one.
Okay.
Well, murder is murder. In Texas, this is quite simple what it is. A person commits murder if he or she knowingly or intentionally or knowingly, recklessly, or with criminal negligence causes the death of an individual. Now, in this case, it ends at intentionally or knowingly. Nothing was reckless that was claimed in this. The state doesn't allege that he was reckless in his behavior, which caused the death of another, because this would be manslaughter. But for murder, it has to be intentionally and knowingly or intentionally on this case. So that's murder, which means that one person causes the death of another. That's simply what murder is. And that's not a hard one to prove in most cases. And in this one, it wasn't hard to prove. He never claimed he didn't cause the death of another. So murder's kind of,
as a matter of fact,
murder's kind of there already. You can't be shitty on, it doesn't matter what color your jury is. It's going to be hard for any rational person to say this didn't qualify for the state statute for murder. It does.
Well, no, so, you know. Well, they did it because he was black. You know. I'm sorry. Don't even start, because.
But it doesn't. It doesn't. It just doesn't. It doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, and the misnomers that came because we got another thunderstorm. So it's been raining and some thunderstorms. Crazy. I just got an alert that I just seen. But it has definitely taking a toll on everyone. And I always say this one thing. It wasn't even really about race. It was about two kids that made a stupid mistake, that made them, had a disagreement, had a fight. But it was the adults that made it about race. It was adults that made it about race. It was quite simple. Did you kill this kid? Yes. Everyone wants to get into schematics. Was the knife legal? Why did he bring it to the school? Why did he do that? Well, whether he had it or not, that's just like me with a firearm. I got a gun on my side, right? I'm legal to carry this gun, whether it's illegal or legal to carry. It's the actions that what I do with that firearm, besides if I have it or not. Would you agree?
I think I agree. I'm not exactly sure I understand where you're going.
Well, I'm going with the fact that everybody wanted to argue about the legality of the knife. Was it 5.5? Was it 3.5?
Oh,
even more. Even more. Okay. He wasn't supposed to have it on school grounds.
Okay. When I read when the jury goes back, they're going to have the state statute for murder. It's going to be in the indictment. It's going to say defendant knowingly or intentionally caused the death of the victim by wit stabbing them in the chest with a knife. That's literally what the indictment's going to read, something of that verbiage. When the trial began, they read the indictment to the jury, and this is what the jury's job is. Tell us, the state's going to try to prove that this indictment is true, that the defendant did knowingly and intentionally cause the death of the victim by stabbing him in the chest with a knife. That's what the state alleges. That's what the grand jury indicted him for. So that indictment that the grand jury did, it goes forward. Nobody changes it. That's what it is. Now, when they go through all the trial and they're given instructions that the state is trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this indictment is true. When they do the jury instructions, it's a form they're going to send them back with. It'll have the same thing on it. The indictment's going to be at the top, and then there's going to be some other instructions that we can get into later in this particular case. But the only thing the jury had to do to come to an agreement that this was a definite murder in the state of Texas was prove or decide if the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt whether Karmelo Anthony caused the death of Metcalf. Well, who argues that? No one argues that. So
no.
Right off the get, you got murder. And then they did allow the self-defense plea that came in. And I think that was pretty gracious on the judge. Honestly, I don't know that it even comes close enough for the judge. I think the judge could have denied the self-defense theory request.
What other thing would they be able to use besides, let's say, self-defense? What else would they be able to use in a court of law?
I think that's it. And honestly, I think that's why the judge let it in. Without that, he really didn't have a defense. Remember, the only question the jury has to come to is did Karmelo Anthony knowingly or intentionally cause the death of Austin Metcalf, right? And I don't think anyone can say no to that question. We all have to say yes, if we're being honest. Now, you can say, well, he did it because he's black or he did it because he's white. You can say that, but that's not what the form asks you. That's not what no one asked the jury that. They just asked, did one cause the death of the other? And the answer to that, of course, is yes. He said he did it. He said it's never been his assertion that he didn't cause the death of him. So automatically we have murder on top. Now, the defense theory was accepted. With the defense theory being accepted, it means now the state, it adds another burden on the state. Now the state has to prove not only was it murder, but it wasn't done in self-defense, right? They don't really charge, they don't put that burden on the defense. So you got to prove it was self-defense. The state has to prove it was not.
Well, why wasn't he charged with manslaughter? Because he didn't mean to do it. It wasn't his intent to do it. Why did they just charge him with manslaughter?
Well, remember the culpable mental states. Pull up it says murder mental states. Put that one up. I thought you'd ask that question. But it is important in this case to understand. If you don't understand it, then you may not understand the verdict. A culpable mental state is your culpable status in something, right? There's how much did you intend to do something, maybe, is one way to look at it. A person acts intentionally or with intent with respect to the nature of his conduct or to the result of his conduct when it has conscious objective or desire to engage in the conduct or cause the result. What that means is that you did an act because you wanted the outcome. So you could say in this case that he didn't intentionally mean to kill Metcalf, right? Go back to that slide.
Okay.
It didn't mean to kill him, but that's where the knowingly gets you. Knowingly says person acts knowingly, that's intentionally. Remember, the statute says knowingly and or intentionally causes the death of another. So there's two things there. One, it can be one and not the other. In this case, I believe that you could even make the argument that when I pulled that knife out and stabbed him, I didn't want him to die. Maybe I wanted to injure him seriously, but I didn't want him to die. But where they get him is the knowledge or knowingly. A person acts knowingly or with knowledge with respect to the nature of his conduct or the circumstances surrounding his conduct when he is aware of the nature of his conduct or that the circumstances exist. Circumstances exist. A person acts knowingly or with the knowledge with respect as to the result of his conduct when he is aware that his conduct is reasonably certain to cause the result. Now, what that means is it's a lot of gobbledygook, but that's straight out of the Texas Penal Code. It's going to be language like this that the jury was asked to make a decision on. But knowingly is where they get him, because knowingly means that you should have known if you stabbed someone in the chest, it could cause their death. And if you say you didn't know, we're all going to assume that you should have known. Anyone would know that if you stab somebody in the chest, the result could be death.
Yeah.
So you can't get out of the murder charge on this one.
Okay. Well,
you can only go to self-defense.
Well, Jasmine Crockett has something different to say.
Please.
35 years. I want to get your reaction to the trial and the verdict.
My heart breaks for so many reasons. And so I was just speaking to a student that is shadowing me who wants to be a public defender. And so it takes me back to what actually made me decide to get into this legislative work in the first place, because I know that our systems are broken. And what we saw with that verdict is the evidence of a broken system. Now listen, from everything that I understand, which I wasn't at the trial because obviously I got a day job, but it's my understanding that Karmelo ended up stabbing, puncturing, I don't know what this tool was that they talk about, knife, or some refer to it as a tool. He ended up hitting Austin one time, and it was about where he hit him. One time, 2 inches. This wasn't someone who said, hey, let me stab you 5, 6, 7 times. And so when you're looking at the punishment range, there's a reason in Texas that it goes from 5 to 99 or life, because you are looking at how intentional, like how bad was this? 35 years for a kid who had decided to go under a tent that was not his team's tent as it was raining, and simply didn't want to be put out in the rain by some random kid that he didn't know who was larger than him. Listen, a lot of people don't know what it is to live as a black person in this country, but just like you can give the benefit of the doubt to so many police officers when they go out and they shoot some black unarmed person, even though they are trained, the fact that there was little to no mercy seen or humanity seen when this black boy said that I was scared, or the fact that honestly anybody else who did something with such a small object, all I know is that it wasn't considered unlawful carrying of a weapon because the blade was not long enough, that they wouldn't even say, well, maybe this was more so something that looked like manslaughter.
Well, some people might say, why are you even bringing a knife like that to a track meet?
Yeah, people may say that, but walk a day in my shoes and then respond. Because we as black folks say, why is it that people need long arm guns when we are going out and having a First Amendment protest? But people say that's their right. They are allowed to do that. And again, it wasn't against the law for him to have it. It may have been prohibited by school rules, which he wasn't at his school at the time, but it definitely was not against the law.
So you think race played a role in the verdict?
Oh my God. I know Collin County. So absolutely. Collin County is right north of Dallas County. And I can tell you that I have had cases that I felt like played out differently because of the counties that they were in. And unfortunately, that was not the county for a black boy.
So if this were a white boy in his exact same position, you don't think he'd get a 35-year sentence?
I would guarantee you it wouldn't have happened. I don't even know if he would have been convicted, because if a white boy would have said that they were afraid of a black boy, something tells me that that jury that didn't have any black people on it, they would have believed him in his fear.
Whew, that was rough to sit through.
Yeah, it was. Thanks for making me endure that. Yeah, she was right about the sentencing guidelines for a felony one in Texas. Everything else, she's way off the mark. But I guess it doesn't take much to be an attorney these days.
No. I think they got that at the back of a Cracker Jack box or a cereal box or something. But one thing I noticed, that the buzzwords that she was using, and I know, she would obfuscate from the actual point to make the racial point, and she would say, "Well, a black kid in Collins County." What I'm sitting here thinking, like, do you want a piece of you want America to be at peace, or do you just want us to stay in our separate places? If you can afford to stay in Collin County or whatever affluent neighborhood, you should be able to stay there, but you're going to have to act accordingly. You can't go around stabbing people in the chest. You can't go around trying to start fights.
Look, you in Texas, you can't go to South Dallas, Oak Cliff, West Dallas, and stab anyone in the chest. It's unlawful everywhere. It's a state law. We don't allow that in Texas. You can't stab someone in the chest. Now, look, they talk about the self-defense. I think he had an absolute case for self-defense up to lethal force. He doesn't in the statutes, and once again, the statutes are very clear about that. They don't leave a lot for you to wonder or ponder about. It tells you. Let's look at murder self-defense.
Murder self-defense.
So it should be the last one. First one you put up last time. Yep, that's right. Okay, yes. Now this is self-defense that's not deadly force, right? This is right, except for provided by subsection B, which doesn't matter in this case. A person is justified in using force against another when and to the degree the actor reasonably believes the force is immediately necessary to protect the actor against the other use or attempted use of unlawful force. The actor's belief that the force was immediately necessary as described by this subsection is presumed to be reasonable if the actor, and that goes through a lot of other things about the actor was in his home, but none of that matters in this. This is the trespassing. None of that matters on this, believe it or not. And neither does the knife. The knife doesn't matter on this. But when it comes to self-defense, if he had hit Austin Metcalf with his backpack, let's say he had books in his backpack, he hits him with the backpack, he falls over, breaks his neck, and dies, I'd be behind him on this. I think that it's reasonable to believe that whether he thought he was in the tent that he was supposed to be or not, that it's reasonable that he thought that he could use force to defend himself, right? But that's not what he did. He did. I think it's murder deadly force. No. Yeah, I think murder deadly force. I can't open them up to see them.
Okay, I see it. No, I see it. Deadly force in defense of a person. Okay.
Now, deadly force is different. There are some other things that are required if you're going to use deadly force. Now, I say he's good up to use force. And I would say even the force of hitting him with a backpack, there is a size disparity. It's not enough to warrant a knife, but there's some size disparity. So pop it with the backpack and go that way. And let's say he dies of some injury because of that. I'm still behind him. And I think even in Collin County, despite this idiot's assertions, it wouldn't have been charged as well. But that's not the case, because we used, remember, knowingly. Who doesn't believe that if I stab you in the chest, that could result in your death, right? So you can't pass the knowingly on murder. Can't get past it. So knowingly you do this. But a person is justified using deadly force against another if the actor would be justified in using force under section 931, which means the same information we just talked about in regular self-defense. So you can use deadly force if you meet all the criteria there. You think it's immediately necessary, and you're doing it because unlawful force is being used against you. When and to the degree the actor reasonably believes the deadly force is immediately necessary, means deadly force is being presented to you, or your incredible fear of your life, a reasonable fear. So you think it's immediate necessary to protect the actor against the other's use of attempted use of force or unlawful deadly force against the others. To prevent the other's imminent commission of aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, or aggravated robbery. So B doesn't count at all. Nobody alleged that Metcalf was kidnapping, murdering someone else. So B's gone. To protect the actor against the others or use of attempted force, a deadly force, unlawful deadly force. Well, where was Metcalf's unlawful deadly force?
That's a great question.
When he touch you, is that deadly? Would most of us consider that deadly force? No. And I think despite the color of your skin or whether you're in Congress, I think none of us would say pushing even is deadly force. So without that, deadly force is off the table. It was never there. Now, one thing they did give them was the sudden passion one, but the jury didn't give him that. But again, the defense didn't even try. They didn't even try on that portion of it to try to push sudden passion. That would have removed it from a first-degree felony to a second-degree felony. The maximum penalty he could have gotten was 20 years. But I don't care who you are, how you look at it. When you read the law in Texas, no reasonable person believes that Austin Metcalf demonstrated deadly force to Anthony.
He felt one thing, he felt threatened by this.
It's got to be rational, man. I don't care how you feel, right? I'm scared of grapes, and I scream out loud when I go to the grocery store. Is that rational? No.
Wait, you scared of grapes?
I'm not scared of grapes. It was an analogy.
No, I believe you now. I'm sorry, I gotta believe it. But no, but the kid was taller than him. He was bigger than him. He was a linebacker. He played on football. They both
play football, right? He doesn't go up against kids like that when he plays football.
Well, I don't know, because there's got to be the size disparity. I mean, were they both seniors or they were juniors?
Here's the problem: the law doesn't allow for any of that. And I'm not making this up. You guys can Google it, search it yourself, but make sure you look at Texas law, because that's the law that this happened under. I'm telling you, there's no way in the prosecution all the way through the case. That's really what they're telling the jury. There's no way you don't know that stabbing somebody in the heart could kill them. And they're also telling the jury, there's no way any rational person would believe that get out of my tent, shoving on you, even bowing up, none of that meets to the level of deadly force. There's no way. Now, if you say I'm black and he was white, it doesn't meet the standard. Most rational people aren't. I'm not afraid of a black person when I go near them, and most black people aren't afraid of me just by my mere presence being around me. And I think if they were, it's kind of like the grapes. I think that's irrational in today's society. Everybody wants to live. A lot of people want to live in 1950s America, but unfortunately, we all live in 2026, and we're all living at the same time.
Well,
anymore.
But I get what you're saying, and actually, I really do understand what you're saying. There were other rumors that were surrounding this case that Austin Metcalf was a MMA fighter. Last night, his father, Jeff Metcalf, put on a.
I listened to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that too. And then he put on a Western, and he talked about it. He laughed at that. But there were so many lies that came. Why did Karmelo go to the tent in the first place? Still trying to figure that out. Okay. What was testified in that he knew somebody there, a guy by the name of Eddie. Eddie had testified when he got up there for the prosecution that he really didn't know Karmelo, but he knew of Karmelo. Then the defense had pulled up pictures of him kicking it with Karmelo at the house, at his house. He was at the 50th birthday party because the girl, well, his girlfriend at the time, not Eddie's girlfriend, but Karmelo's girlfriend at the time.
This was his ex-girlfriend's cousin or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
And so he said that he came over there to, kicking and talking with him. And the kid, Eddie, as he testified, said he knew him, but he didn't know him like that. And they pulled up pictures from a birthday party, from the girlfriend's mother birthday party. And when they did that, he said that to me, that still doesn't mean that you know me like that. I think whether he was trying to weasel his way in, and this is just my opinion, whether he was trying to weasel his way in by saying, "What's up, Eddie?" that he knew somebody that was over there. That's what I thought was that. That's what I thought was that.
It doesn't matter though.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of you got your Lifetime movie information that gets us all dramatic. Then you got the stuff that's in the law. The jury was never asked, was he supposed to be under the tent?
Nope.
The jury never asked whether the weapon he had in his hand was lawful or not. The jury never asked if Austin Metcalf was never asked this question. Do you think Austin Metcalf was a MMA fighter? No, none of those questions were asked. Everybody brings it up as if it really means something. The only thing the state's trying to do is prove the information that I'm showing you guys tonight. That's all they have to prove. In a jury's charge is a lot simpler. In fact, when the first time, if you've never seen one, if you ever get your hands on one, look at it, it'll shock you how little is there. Because the only thing they're asking, did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the elements of the offense? For murder, it's simple. Knowingly or intentionally cause the death of another. It's not a lot of elements to it. It's one. Right. And I think in this, and I'll go back again. In this case, none of us can argue that Karmelo Anthony didn't cause the death of Austin Metcalf, right?
He even said it.
So, well, of course he did. Now, if you go to self-defense, then you go back to self-defense and you've got a proportional. Proportional force is a big one on this. You're allowed to use self-defense, but the defense needs to be proportional and just to the amount needed to stop the unlawful force being used against you. But if it's deadly force, the unlawful force being used against you needs to be not lawful force. Jesus Christ, I can't remember. Deadly force. I can't think of.
Okay, deadly force. Yeah.
It has to be deadly. If you're going to use deadly force, you have to really believe that deadly force is about to be used against you, and it's immediately necessary for you to use deadly force to prevent that from happening. But when we go, he loses again. It means the defensive force used must match the level of the threat. A shove, a push, a big white guy, none of that match. A stab to the chest doesn't match any of that. And it doesn't pass the smell test for anyone. Even those that are staunchly on the other side and believe that the whole thing was untoward. I don't care if you'd had black jurors on there, maybe not the ones that were dismissed because they said, I can't be unbiased in this matter. I can't that was a good thing. Decision. So you have to remove them. But I think it doesn't matter the breakup of the jury. I think most reasonable people are going to have a hard time getting around the knowingly and that this just absolutely wasn't proportional. And you know what? I hate the kids gone to prison. I really do. I think it's nobody really is really the winner here. Yeah. Right. And I'm not the other side too, where I think he's some sort of a thug or a bad guy. I don't know him. I don't know if he is or not. There's no record of it, so I'll give you that. But I mean, this one act alone, I think, is worth 35 years. That's about right. You know what's a shame?
Yeah.
If this had gone to a plea bargain, the judge would have given him the benefit of sudden passion. I guarantee it.
Yep.
The judge threw that in on this one, the sudden passion. This was the relief valve if the jury wanted to take it. Now, the defense didn't even seem to pursue it. I think they should have. But the sudden passion would have reduced his sentencing range. It made it the second-degree felony. I mean, it's almost as good as manslaughter at this point, guys.
Yeah.
And his sentencing range would have been from 5 to 20. Now, the judge the judge would have made that decision in a plea bargain. This is important, without hearing from the dead boy's twin brother, without hearing from the other students and other things talking about how great the victim was and how much the victim had impacted their lives in a positive way. The jury did get to hear that before they made the sentence. The judge would not have. In fact, it had been very sterile. Plea bargain, except 20 years, and I plead guilty, and that's it, and they're done. So, but I think all the hubbub on this, I think it's hurt that young man on the 35 years, but 35 years is not out of line.
But they had the new Black Panthers out there. People were out there screaming, and people were talking about justice for Karmelo and free him and whatnot. And like I said, it was something that happened between two kids, and the adults stepped in and made it racial. The problem is, with all of this surrounding this case, you all made it worse than what it was, and I feel like you all gave him false hope. You gave him false hope to say, keep fighting, Karmelo, we're gonna be out here for you, when he could have just took that plea deal, that manslaughter, and he would have been serving less time. Right?
I don't think you ever get to manslaughter. I think he could have got there by using the sudden passion, but I think the judge in this case would have given it to him. Sudden passion is something that if you accept it, it allows a lesser sentence. It mitigates the punishment. And the jury was getting that. Really, it's significant. The jury was given this as an option. With that form, I tell you that they're one of them is they have to say no to sudden passion. Do you believe that this was committed and meets the criteria for sudden passion? They would have to say, they said no on this. But if they'd given him that, then the sentencing range would have been at top end 20 years.
Well, but here's the thing. Well, because Karmelo is Black, right? And Kason Allison is white, there has to be some disparity there. Because
I don't know who that is. What does that mean?
Well, look at this. Right. So this is what they're using. There's two different standards of justice. So Kason, right, on the left, our young fellow here, he stabbed
in the same state?
Texas, yes. Same state. What was that? It starts with a B. I think it's Bristol, Texas. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but it was Bristol, Texas. But the kid, he had a fight with this kid, Joe Ramirez, right? He stabs that kid, Joe Ramirez, and he gets 10 years. And then same thing happens with Karmelo. He gets 35 years. But I want you to check the case. I want you to check this out. Listen.
Karmelo Anthony versus the verdict in sentencing for another man whose name is Kason Allison. And I'm not a lawyer, but I decided to do a little digging to see what the actual similarities and what the actual differences are between these two cases. So let me tell y'all what I found. So first, let me fill you in on Kason's actual case. So back on May 3rd, 2022, Kason Allison, who was 18 at the time, was a senior at Belton High School in Texas. It was a Tuesday morning, and around 9:47 a.m., him and another friend of his walk into the boys' bathroom at the school, and by the time Kason left, he had stabbed his 17-year-old classmate, Ramirez. Now, context as to what led up to the stabbing is that prom was 4 days earlier. And while the two of them were at a prom after party, they got into it because Joe felt like Kason was being aggressive toward the prom date of one of Joe's friends. So they have this verbal altercation, and Kason claims that Joe pulled a gun on him during this altercation. But it's worth noting that a friend testified at the trial that it wasn't Joe, it was someone else.
A friend of Allison shared today that he saw someone pull a gun on Allison at the prom after party, but it was not Ramirez.
So the two of them have this argument, and afterward, a Snapchat group message is created where Kason suggests that the two of them should fight at a park. Joe apparently says he's not really down for the park, so the two of them plan to fight at the school, but they never lock down a time and a place. Now, before the day of the fight, multiple of Joe's friends testified that he told them he planned to seriously injure Joe.
Another close friend of Allison returned to the stand today discussing text messages between the two of them, and those texts contained things like Allison saying, "Bro, bring me a gun." Quote, he wanted Joe on life support and wanted to stomp his head in.
And then when detectives pulled Kason's Snapchat messages, they heard a voice recording of him telling someone, quote, "We finna catch them tomorrow, and I'm going to send him to the hospital." So that all happens in between prom and Tuesday, May 3rd. And then on Tuesday, the school day starts, and after first period, Joe and 4 of his friends go to the boys' bathroom because that is apparently something they did every day. But this time, shortly after they go to the bathroom, the school cameras catch Kaysen and a friend of his also walking into that same bathroom. Now, according to the testimony from the trial, this meetup was not planned, and Joe was actually surprised to see Kaysen in the bathroom. Multiple witnesses who were also in the bathroom at that time testified that Kaysen did not want to fight at school. He emphasized they were close to graduation and he did not want to risk that, but Joe apparently wanted to fight. In a recorded interview with detectives, Kaysen says that once the boys started taking off their backpack, he took out a knife that he had brought to school with him and said, quote, "Don't touch me or I'll stab you." At this point, a student that was also in the bathroom takes out his phone and begins recording the altercation. And on that video, he captures Joe swing on Kaysen lunge and stab Joe. Then there's a scream and the video cuts. Now, following this incident, Kaysen is caught on the cameras running out of the bathroom. He ends up making it all the way to his house. But because multiple students were witnesses, they were able to tell police and officials that Kaysen was the one who did this. So law enforcement arrives at Kaysen's house within the hour, and they find him in his bathroom on the phone telling someone he, quote, "did something at school," and asking them to take him to Waco, Texas, another city. Police search Kaysen's house and they find the knife that he used, and although Kaysen told them he only stabbed Joe one time, the medical examiner testified on the stand that Joe was actually stabbed 4 times.
We learned there was one large stab wound across Ramirez's chest, which caused multiple injuries to both the heart itself and the left lung, as well as 2 stab wounds on his buttocks and a wound on his upper back and left forearm.
So following this, Kaysen was charged with murder. But during the trial, the jurors were given the option to convict him of murder, manslaughter, or criminally negligent homicide. And his jury chose criminally negligent homicide, which in layman's terms means you've committed some kind of negligent act that you didn't realize would end up killing somebody. And so for this conviction, Kaysen was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Now, for the sake of full context, there was some testimony that Joe and his friends were known to get in fights and apparently known to jump people. Okay, so that's the background. Now,
all right. Well, Joe, I mean, come on, Joe. You got to agree with me now that it's racial disparity now.
That's a different jurisdiction for sure.
It's different jurisdiction.
I think you got other elements on that too. You've got both of the kids kind of were acting like little asses. I would be okay if that was murder too, to be honest with you. But yeah. I don't think the two are the same. The interaction. Here's the other thing too. You got to remember the interaction between the victim and the killer on that case is different than what we have here. Right.
100.
Both sides. Hey, I just don't want to fight you at school. They were both going at each other. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yep.
Here, that's not really what was going on. And honestly, if Karmelo had waited another minute or two, maybe it did develop to that. It just didn't get to that point. It was too fast. Once again, I don't disagree with the verdict. I'd have to look at more of the details, and I think there's more details there as far as the animosity between the victim and the murder in that one that kind of leads you down the road to get into criminally negligent homicide or manslaughter.
Well, yes, and one thing is, I think because the other party was complicit in it, and I think there was some reports that both of them had knives on, but I think the other party was complicit with it. They made a conscious decision to meet up and fight. They made a conscious decision to all the other things played a factor, and the jury heard that, right, through the testimony and said, hey, you all got up and said y'all were going to fight, but guess what?
Right. And you got to remember, the jury sits there and listens to the testimony, right? They see the people talking. They maybe I believe a little bit what this guy says, maybe I don't. Right. So you never know. We know what, like this lady says, I can give you it in highlights. This is what was said. But yeah, I mean, when it was said, how believable was it? Right. In context, how did that line out in the trial? So I just don't know that you can look at it that way in the charging. And I'll go back to Karmelo Anthony's. I don't think you can't get past knowingly for murder. You can't get past knowingly for murder in his case.
Yeah, and that this is what I try and tell people. right? And if people are so gung-ho about the law and we need to change this, change that, and all of a sudden we need to stop this and stop that, well, you should know these different things. And it doesn't hurt. What is that? The Black Laws Dictionary? It doesn't hurt to buy that, to at least learn some type of stuff. I'm not saying be an expert about it. You're not going to be a lawyer, but you should at least learn something about it. And you know what? That remind me. We had a stream the other day, and this guy, I asked him. I talked to him. He was saying, "Man, you know this system is rigged and everything else." He was trying to say about, I think, Karmelo Anthony. But I was, oh no, he said that. Oh, that's what he said. We're gonna talk about that too. He said, well, they had all white jury. They had all white jury and whatnot. I said, okay, do you know anything about the jury selection or the jury selection process? No. I'm like, well, then I asked him, I said, how many times you been arrested? 38 times, right? No bullshit. He said 38 times. So, okay, 38 times.
You should know about Vordaer. He said you a few.
I said, actually, then how many times were you convicted? None. I said, okay, so that you were never convicted, but he said, I always took a plea bargain. I said,
he was convicted.
He was convicted. Well, yeah, you know, I misspoke on that. I think I asked him if he ever went through a jury trial or something like that, to that effect.
Yeah.
I think I asked that. I think I asked him because he was convicted, but he pled out. So he never went through a jury trial. So he doesn't know how jury selection goes. But all of a sudden he's saying they had all white people up there.
It was an improper jury selection. You know, a lot of people, if you really think about it, if you understand the jury selection process, they're not really selected. They're just not eliminated. So, you know, they'll decide how many they want in the jury pool. If they want a wide, diverse group, and I think 600 out of Collin County is pretty big for a trial. 600 jurors is your potential jury pool. When they come in, they answer questions. Everybody gets a little buttons. It'll have a number on it, and that's how you're known by, right? There's no juror number 22. That's your number. And they'll start segregating you up into different groups, and it's arbitrary at first. But then you're going to fill out questionnaires about a lot of stuff. Now, have you heard a lot about this case? Do you know this person? Do you know that person? Do you know this person? That kind of stuff. Anybody that might be associated with trial, witnesses, officers. It goes pretty deep on who you might know. They want to know that. Then they get to Vordaer, which is French for literally speak the truth. And they're going to ask. In Texas, both sides have 3 strikes, right? Three preemptive strikes they can lay out there and eliminate any one of the juror pool for any reason except for color, race, sex, or religion. All right. That cannot be the basis why you use your preemptive strikes. Any other reason is I don't like them because they're a teacher. I don't like them because they're a cop. I don't like them because of this question over here. Right. So anything that you can't justify in front of the judge, you're going to use your 3 strikes and you're going to eliminate them. Why do they eliminate educators? I understand it's not a hard reach on that, in my opinion. Educators are going to look at and the state doesn't want this. The educators are going to look at the defendant is that we got to fix him, not punish him. But that's not what the state says. The law says, want you to determine innocence or guilt and be a good arbitrator on the punishment. We're not educators, or I wouldn't put educators there either. I'll tell you, I do the grand jury every Friday night. Every time, you're going to love this. Every time I get you firearms instructors in there, we have to sit and listen about, well, he flagged that guy over. Nobody's asking you that. That's not
keep your finger off the trigger till you're ready to fire.
They can't get past it. Let's fix everybody that saw this so they don't do this. And so I can see why educators were eliminated. But what the jury you have left over is not the jury you selected. It's the jury that remains. When if they say they want 12 jurors and another 10 alternates, right? So 22. When they have 22 of the numbers are on their lapel, the judge shuts it off. That's where we're at. There's your jury.
I find it funny because, when we talked about Rick Chow, there was a black prosecutor. His defense attorney was black. There was 6 black jurors in the jury box. And I think it was in mostly black county. I really would need to look at the demographics, but I'm pretty sure it was a mostly black county. And all of a sudden, he got found not guilty. He shot that 14-year-old kid in the back as he was running away from him. So
it's almost like facts and laws mean more than the color of your skin.
Yes.
Seems that way. Maybe I'm wrong. I know when I go to the grocery store, I'm looking for all the color associated products when I buy them off the shelf. So I spend my money appropriately. I'm buying what I can afford, just like everyone else.
Oh, I know what that is. That's already played. It was something else I was trying to find out. But a lot of people don't understand that. If you look at Ossian sweet, Ossian, I butcher that name every single time. Sweets, and this was in 1925. You don't know anything about it. Look him up, and then the name again is Ossian. He, in 1925, moved into affluent. Well, I wouldn't say affluent, but he moved into a white neighborhood. He was a doctor in Detroit. He was a doctor in Detroit, and he moved into this area, and the white mob ensued to start throwing rocks and bricks and was trying to get into the house. And they shot two white guys, and killed one and injured the other one, and had to face an all-white jury of 12 white men. I know you're tired of me saying all that, right? But had to face 12 white men. And his verdict was not guilty. How the hell did that happen? In 1925, though, of all places, Detroit.
Look, I mean, and as a nation, we can't ignore that there are other times situations like that didn't turn out that way. I don't know. I wasn't alive in 1950, so I don't know. I know in my lifetime, if I'm on a jury and that's what I smell is that it's got a race component to it, it turns me off. I want to hear anything about race.
Nope.
What I really want is
the facts.
The U.S. Constitution guarantees me, if I'm charged with a crime, that I'll get due process and I'll get a jury of my peers. That doesn't mean a jury of people look like me. Doesn't mean the people that I work with. Doesn't mean the people that even know me. Jury of your peers literally means the people that are in the same jurisdiction that you are in, that if the tables were turned and you were in the defendant's, you could be in the defendant's seat in the same courtroom. You're subject to the same jurisdiction that makes you a peer, right? So it's not the color of your skin. I'm a black guy. I need so many black people on the jury. Or you don't really hear it when it comes to white trials. Like, oh, I don't want any black people on the jury, right? That you need to exclude him because he's black. Of course not. When it comes down to this, though, it just go ahead with Chud.
Well, even with Chud the Builder, he's going to get a probably racially mixed jury, and they're going to hear the facts of the case and have to judge accordingly.
Right. If they make it through voir dire, they promise to be a reasonable jurist, then it doesn't matter the color of your skin.
Exactly. It doesn't matter.
It's literally against the law, actually. It's fucking against the law. For it to be the color of your skin is the reason that you're picked or denied.
Exactly. Well, I seen an interesting meme out here. This. You see this right here? This is supposed to be the judge, the DA, the Karmelo. They all hung with each other. They were all cool. So, could you please talk about, can a judge have any type of bias in a court case?
I don't see how the judge even affected this case, to be honest with you. But yeah, look, a judge doesn't live in a vacuum. He lives in the community. In Texas, they're elected, so they go to many events like that and take pictures with people like that. So it doesn't mean it doesn't because he knows them or they had some sort of acquaintance in the past. Now, if there was a close association, yes, there'd be a challenge. But I didn't hear one from the defense. Did you?
And
I didn't hear one from the defense. They didn't say. I didn't hear them say maybe this is a crime of sudden passion. Let's give this some compassion to the child. I didn't hear any of that.
Yep.
I didn't hear the jury. They did a Batson challenge because there wasn't a black man on the jury, but they're going to fail that miserably because voir dire is recorded. It's on record. The appellate court will go back and say, why was this black juror dismissed? Oh shit, that's a pretty damn good reason. If he says that he couldn't convict a black guy, I guess that person by rights and all rights should be gone. The strikes, but being struck by the profession, it's done all the time. Do you think if I, as an ex-cop, go sit in a jury pool, that they're going to select me? If they can't find a reason to get rid of me without using the 3 strikes, they'll use 3 strikes on me. The prosecution doesn't want me there. Why? Because I'm critical to the law enforcement. Well, that wasn't right. I don't think they did this correctly. I'm not sure about the standard on the Fourth Amendment on this piece of evidence. They don't want me on the jury. So they'll use it to strike me. Is it fucking racist? No, it's not racist. It's not racist. It's good. It's good. You know what? Because I don't know that I would be the best jurist up there. And the person and here's the thing, the defendant deserves the best jury. Needs the ones with the openest mind that will consider the evidence and weigh it out and get there beyond a reasonable doubt. Because I'll tell you, jurors and the ones I've been around, anybody that's ever served on a criminal trial jury, especially if they were convicted, ask them about it. They'll talk to them like PTSD almost. Yeah, they remember it.
Oh, the wife.
They remember it, and it sits hard on their hearts on the decisions they make. They take it very seriously.
Yep. What's going on? What's going on, Duran?
What up, though?
What's going on, Duran?
Introduce yourself, brother.
Hey, Duran Capers, LMB, Tactical Education and Defense, Tampa, Florida area. Teach firearms, medical safety, and security. So do a little bit, not military respectfully, not law enforcement respectfully. I'm just a dude from Detroit and with 2 master's degrees, master's of education, MBA in data analytics. So super nerd.
I got a master's degree too. Since Dr. Cheyenne Bryant can do it, I got one. Doctor.
Duran got a master's degree in a living room, man. That is nice.
I appreciate it. Yo, these filters hot. And funny, I have met Dr. Cheyenne Bryant multiple times, and outside of everything that's going on the internet, she is actually a very cool and down to earth person. But everything that's
don't make her a doctor though.
Everything that's happening right now, I can't call it one way or another. I wish the best for everybody.
Well, yeah, I get it. I do got one question for you. One of the first questions, have you been following the Karmelo Anthony case? How close have you been looking at that?
As much as I could. I actually grabbed the video and my phone died. And so it was just like, okay. And yeah, I couldn't finish watching the video, but I did. I think I came across a video from Court TV or something like that, to where the person was actually in the courtroom. And so I didn't get a chance to watch that full video, but I did hear. So the part that I didn't get to was if it was both. I think the student that died name was Austin.
Yes, Austin Metcalf.
Yeah, I think him and his brother was there, but I didn't get to that part of the video.
Okay. Well, some of the things, and then I know you've seen that video. Have you heard anything else about the court case?
Yeah, just through social media. So I've heard all sides. I've heard the side of no matter what, he's innocent. I heard the side of I knew he was guilty as soon as they called it out. Like as far as one kid stabbed another kid because why, it's just guilty, whatever. I heard, well, he might have been innocent, but the fact that he had a knife at somewhere at a weapons free zone, it makes him guilty. And I've heard if you ain't ever been jumped before, you don't know what this feels like, or you don't know what disparity of force is. And last but not least, I've heard, this whole situation is crazy. And we all should take the time to actually learn emotional intelligence, learn how to actually recognize threats, how to mitigate threats, how to either try to disengage or understand when it's proper or appropriate to use what level of force at that given moment in time.
I'm sorry about that. I still had to grab something. I hit the last part, but we'll get to it.
Basically the very last part was when is it appropriate to use force and what level of force is it that you're able to use? So,
Yeah.
which I think is the most important conversation of it all. But yeah.
All right. So
yeah, it's not a secret. It's written down when you can use it.
Yeah, but if the law was that just black and white, then we wouldn't need judges, we wouldn't need attorneys, we wouldn't need. I mean, of course, the proof. You know, somebody would still have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. But having a conversation earlier, I know people that got caught with kilos of coke in their car, but because the search was illegal, they're not in jail. The case was thrown. So does that mean they're not a drug dealer? No, they could still.
No, in case never drug dealer, it says you're guilty of an offense at a certain place and time, or not guilty of it. It's what it means. It doesn't say anything. You can call him a drug dealer, but the state's not going to call him a drug dealer. In Texas, they call it manufacture and or deliver. It doesn't mean anything other than that's the charge you're going to get charged with. In this case, it's murder. And murder in Texas is real simple. We kind of went over it earlier, but I mean, the state only has to prove that that Anthony knowingly or intentionally caused the death of Austin Metcalf. That's all they have to prove. And it was proven before they ever got to court. He never said he didn't cause the death of him. So then you go to self-defense. Now make the argument on proportionality. Is anything that Austin Metcalf did as a reasonable person would believe that reaches to the level of even the threat of deadly force? Because that's what Anthony responded with. He responded with deadly force. If you hit him with a backpack, if you punched him in the face, if he'd done anything else, he has a great case for self-defense. But the proportionality aspect of this doesn't match up. So it doesn't have to be the judge didn't make any decisions that didn't come to the law, and they're all on the record, and they'll be subject to the appellate review, right? The jury was the only one asked to decide, but they weren't asked. They didn't hear the case and say, "No, judge didn't tell them now. Go back in that room back there and come back and tell us what you think." It's very structured. They're going to say, "Did the state prove the elements of the offense?" There's only one element of the offense in murder in Texas, one causing the knowingly or intentionally causing the death of another. That's really simple. That's done, right? So it's already murder. Now you're going to self-defense. Proportionality is an issue there. Not many people that are rational can get over that. You know, a shove to the shoulder or even a push to the ground doesn't call for. It's not reasonable to respond back with a knife to the chest.
Well, you know, one.
So hold up, real quick.
No, hold on. One thing I didn't hear throughout the whole trial, all the testimony, where I didn't hear, but it said he didn't even push him to the ground. It was a shove, a push, didn't push him to the ground. But go ahead, Durant.
So, and again, I ain't get to that part as far as what actually happened, but I want to talk about, Joe, what you just said. From my understanding, did the judge tell the jury that they could consider manslaughter?
No, the judge threw in, and I thought this was something to think about. They threw in sudden passion. And what sudden passion would have done, if the jury had bought that and said, yeah, we agree with the sudden passion theory on this, then it would have lowered the offense to manslaughter. It brought it to a felony too. So it would have benefited him quite a bit. And the judge, the way I understand it, I don't know this for sure. The way I understand it, the judge insisted that the jury had the option of sudden passion.
Okay.
So I'm going to give him some credit on that. And I'll tell you the other thing, the self-defense, the judge accepted that theory in the very beginning. There really isn't a lot of grounds for self. In many cases, when the defense tries to bring up self-defense, the judge says it doesn't even come close, no, and won't even allow that in to be considered. Because when the judge accepted the self-defense theory, it added a burden to the state. Now the state not only has to prove murder, it has to prove that the murder was or the death was not self-defense. So it added a burden to the state, and the judge let them bring and lay that on, accepted that. I think that was a gift to the defense. I just don't think they handled it well. But I thought the judge did a great job in this case. He was more than fair in a lot of aspects.
So with that being the case, and again, I'm coming in this at a handicap because I haven't been able to follow this as closely in that. Have you saw or been able to kind of like really brief, because you're down there in Texas, right? Or
I am.
Okay. Have you been able to like really deeply brief yourself on exactly what went on during the trial and things of that nature? See the videos, kind of.
Well, they didn't have. This wasn't a video trial, so you had people's recounting it, and I've heard some of the testimony. They all seem to be pretty consistent. And look, this was This is I hate to say it, a standard murder case. It's
But hold
not
on,
complicated
real
at
quick,
all.
because you made a comment, and I can only look at this from this. Well, not only look at this, but I'm basically kind of taking what you're saying, because you said basically Karmelo never said, "Oh, I wasn't trying to murder him. I wasn't trying to do this." Generally, you're not going to hear the person who's defending themselves make a statement to that capacity.
Actually, almost all the time. How are you going to bring up self-defense if you didn't kill him?
Wait, say that again.
How are you going to introduce the self-defense theory if you're saying you didn't kill him?
Well, because when you start thinking of how society don't understand the difference between killing and murdering, where they look at that as essentially the same thing, then you start running into issues, because people don't know that there is a difference between killing and murder.
Yeah, homicide means one human causes the death of another. That's not unlawful, right? In Texas, there's no crime in homicide. The crime is murder, that you knowingly, intentionally caused the death of another, and you didn't have justification.
So you gotta let me finish. Every time I say, I got you. You go on a soliloquy.
If you get there, I'll go. Every time I hear you talk, it's like, well, I don't know enough about it, and then we never get to the part.
And every time I talk, you
go ahead, brother. I'm muting.
You gotta let me talk. So based on what I'm getting to, you haven't seen any of the videos. You only heard that there was shoving. When you say that there is no instance ever for somebody to use deadly force off of a shove, that's not true. If you don't know the condition of a person as far as medically, if they have devices, anything, because when you get to using deadly force, that means you're being faced with great bodily harm. So if I had a pacemaker in my chest and somebody threatened to punch me in the chest, that can cause me great bodily harm.
But how would the person know that he has a pacemaker at the time?
It's not up to me to warn that person.
It's not up to you to warn that person, but how would I know if me and Joe were to meet?
And that's why you shouldn't go around punching people in the chest.
Yeah,
there's an answer in the law for that.
You said what?
There's an answer in the law for that.
So in that, my point is, and even with me saying I'm not as caught up, what I'm hearing is, oh, well, I already knew he was guilty from the start. And it's like, how do you know somebody's guilty before you even heard the case? That's irresponsible. That's a biased situation. You don't even have all the facts, and you came up with the.
Are you calling me irresponsible?
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
I know both the law and the facts of the case that's been reported. I know as much as anyone else.
Just write books and be the consultant.
Have you gotten to the point yet, or are we still listening to your soliloquy?
But because every time I'm talking, you interrupt them.
Bro, I've gotten up and got a drink and come back. You hadn't stopped
and
talking.
You still talking. You talking over me. Yeah, you got up.
So hold on, gentlemen.
I'm not going to do this much longer. It's not much fun. I don't mind having a discussion, but I'm not going to sit and listen to a lecture that goes on and on and on and then say that I'm irresponsible. You haven't heard. I promise you I'm not irresponsible.
No, you did the same thing.
Hold on.
Hey, Duran, get to the point, dude. Get to it.
Hold on. All right. Hey, how you doing, Brian? How you doing, Brian? I just wanted I wanted to acknowledge you because I wanted to say that I wanted y'all to get done. Brian, go ahead and tell the people who you are.
Hey, I'm Brian, man. Also known as a relationship rehab man. Y'all catch me on YouTube, Rumble, and all that good stuff, man. But I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, let you do your thing, and then let me know when you.
It's crazy. Everybody talk too long when you disagree with them, but when you on your soapbox, you get to go as long as you need to. So my point is, it's irresponsible to hear something happen and to already come up with a verdict. That's why they come up with juries. That's why they have trials. If not, then they should just hire Joe to say, "Hey, Joe, did he do it or did he not?" All right, if he did it, we send him to jail. We don't need jury. We don't need the court.
That's not how law works.
Exactly. That's my point.
But hold on. So you can have an opinion. You are 100% right. That doesn't mean that I'm the judge, jury, and executioner. You can have an opinion. Everybody has opinion. I can see what you're saying, that guess what? That is irresponsible to come up to a conclusion. But guess what? You think that that a lot of trials haven't been in the public eye. But hold on, in the public eye, right? And somebody formed an opinion. But guess what? Once they heard the facts, case in point, my wife went through a murder trial, so she started looking the guy up. I'm like, no, stop, don't look it up. She wanted to look it up and see what this guy did. It was a murder trial, right? Murdered his 9-month-old baby. Stop, don't go looking at all this. I said, keep your bearing, right? Keep your bearing and listen in court. They're going to tell you, they're going to show you a whole lot of stuff. They're going to show you the facts in court. I did that for my wife. A lot of people want to look at the what's name. And there's a case right now. There's a case right now in Chicago that's probably going to make its way through the system. I don't know. They haven't set a trial date. But if you heard about Khadijah Holly Johnson, right? Everybody is fighting about that right now. But I guarantee when they get in that court and they hear the facts, they have to make the judgment off the facts and not what they heard from somebody that sat there and was a whole guru. Even more, one more, Kenneka Jenkins. Do y'all remember that?
Which one was
Kenneka
that
Jenkins. All right, so Kenneka Jenkins was the young lady. They got drunk and high in the hotel party and whatnot. She wandered downstairs, drunk, high, got locked in the freezer. Yeah, got locked in the freezer and died. Right? Everybody was sitting there saying, I seen people on Facebook go Facebook Live and said, oh, guess what? It was a friends that set up. And it was the friends had nothing to do with it. Now, they had something to do with the irresponsibility of getting drunk as hell and high. But everybody formed their opinion before then. And then when everything came out, yes, you're going to have to recant them statements. I get what you're saying, that we can't draw a conclusion from the beginning, that we shouldn't draw a conclusion from the beginning, but people are only human.
I want a chance to defend myself.
Real quick.
Go ahead. Let me know when you're done again. We'll try.
I will. So stop talking. So the difference is, Corey.
I can't let that happen like that, bro.
Now you let him disrespect me, but you don't let me respond.
Okay, so now I'm jumping in the middle of it, right? I'm jumping in the middle of it right now. But here's the thing. For both of us, all of us, we can be men and we can talk about the law. Let's let that happen.
Look, I just want a chance to defend myself on the irresponsibility before you go down and accuse something else, if you don't mind. Look,
I was clarifying myself.
Here's what I'm saying, and let me clarify what I was saying, because I think you misunderstood me when I say he was absolutely. I understood he was guilty before I saw all the videotape. What I'm saying is he never denied it, and we're looking at the law again, which is what he was judged by, whether you like it or not. It was the law that he was judged by. The state has to prove an element of the offense. Murder is unique. It only has one element. And that element is that one knowingly or intentionally caused the death of the other without justification. Okay. So we already know that he killed him. And that's the thing I can assume from the beginning on this. I don't need to see the video. He said that he did. His actions did cause the death of the other. The rest of it is trying to figure out whether it was justification or not. And that's the point. Now, that's where it gets hairy. But once again, the law is not on this young man's side in this whole case. It's not hard to see where the jury got there when you see what the law is. But I never made an assumption on his innocence or guilt, and I haven't done that since the very beginning. If you follow me, you know that.
So thank you for clarifying that. Based on what I heard you say, and I'm glad you clarified that. But when you present yourself as the know-all, end-all with law, and it's like, hey, I served in law enforcement, which I respect your service. But when you present yourself as, oh, I'm the end-all, be-all, I know this is what the law says, and this is just what it is, and this is, and when you present that, and then you give an opinion, that is an opinion that is not just the average Joe Blow.
Is that the show? You talk? No, you're fucking talking over me, and you're talking shit to me, and I'm really not going to fucking take it. I'll leave. This is what you guys want to do. It's fine. I'm not presenting myself as anything.
So hold up, because when I was responding to him,
I've got slides to tell you what the law is. You could read it your fucking self, but you hadn't gotten to that point yet.
Now you let this man. So if I
hold on. So here's the thing. Think about it. You are taking shots. You're taking slight shots at him. You are taking shots. Yes, you are.
I'm telling you.
Okay, so here's the thing.
I'm telling you as a man.
So Brian, hold on. So I'm going to bring in a third party in this. Brian, can we sit here and say objectively that he was taking shots at him?
No, and see, now you lead in the. Can we say, do you feel like shots were being taken based on your
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
No, I'm not asking you. I'm asking Brian.
Okay, no. Okay. Hold on.
Because you already said your opinion.
Let's get this straight. Whose stream is it? I don't come on your stream.
Don't bring me in here if you're gonna disrespect me.
Okay, I no. Here's the thing. Whose stream is it? I don't sit here and try to take sides. I was gonna let y'all talk it out, but you have been taking shots at that man. You have.
So okay, so you invite me in your house. You talk to me any kind of way, and then when I respond,
am I talking to you any kind of way?
Yes.
Okay, I invite you in the house. I'm sitting there, I invite you in the house and I let you two talk it out. He's trying to explain the law. The way this conversation goes back and forth, yes, whether we go on our soliloquies, the diatribes, and whatever words we want to use about it, it is still a conversation. I haven't even got a chance to get to Brian because I want to ask Brian some of the questions that we already went over. So now, but hold on, but now y'all in this pissing match. Now we're going back and forth. It's a pissing match back and forth. It is.
Yo, when you watch this back, because I know you watch your stuff back. I want to see if you come back with the same analysis.
Okay.
Because during the time I've been talking,
and when I do,
he's been cutting me off.
And when I do, what's going to happen then?
When have you ever seen me not admit when I was wrong?
Okay, so that's the thing. Your statement, what you just said was you're going to watch this back. And I come to the same conclusion that I am right now. What's going to happen?
When have you not seen me admit that I was wrong?
Okay. All right, Brian. How you doing, brother?
So I'll address it at that point.
No, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it.
If he comes in and I'm wrong, and because I'm gonna watch it
don't even worry about it.
I get my apology.
Don't even worry about it. Brian, how you doing?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I'm all right. So do you think Karmelo got a fair trial?
I think Karmelo got a fair trial. Yes. I think that, yes, I'll answer it just like that. He did get a fair trial.
Okay. Did you think there was any racial bias?
I think the race card was being played, understandably so. I think the biggest thing about the trial was I think Karmelo had poor representation.
Well, why is that?
Because I believe that just the way that because when you look at any murder case, especially one that has media attention, there's always going to be a narrative. And that narrative is going to be told by, both sides. And how you paint that narrative and thinking about the result that you're trying to get, that matters. And it's like, I think that it was too easy to play the race card. And if it was me and that was my son and who did the exact same thing, I'm not going to play the race card up front. I'm going to play the kid card up front. And that was the thing about the case that I saw, which was problematic, is that the fact that he's being charged as an adult, you can't do anything about that. But you want to humanize that kid as a kid. Even though he's 17, you want to have him as a kid. You want the world, you want the jury, you want the judge, you want them to see him as a little kid. That's what I would want the narrative to be about my son. And I believe that just relying on the fact that he's black and y'all banked on him getting off because he was a young black boy, and y'all thought here in Texas, y'all ain't gonna convict no young black boy, you got another thing coming. Now, had this been in New York, had this been in California, had this been in one of those real liberal cities or states, whatever the case may be, it would have been a different story. And he probably, if he would have got found guilty, it would have been of a lesser charge, and he probably would have got way less time. But being here in Texas, it ain't gonna go like that. And I think that they played their hand wrong. It's just like if you got when you play spades, you can have some bosses and you can have some trumps, but if you play them wrong, you can get way less books and can fuck around and lose the game playing your cards the wrong way. And I think that's what happened here.
Let me address this right quick. So did Addison take a plea deal? So if you look at the picture right there, and this is what a lot of people are bringing up, and they're saying that this, right, is a comparative note that people say, well, look, that white boy got 10 years and Karmelo Anthony got 35 years, and they did the same thing. Do you know anything about?
Yeah, so that's not true. You don't, I don't even know. I mean, there are so many mitigating factors with this. Just because one kid stabbed another kid in Chicago and one kid stabbed another kid in Texas,
they're both in Texas.
That don't mean it's the same. I'm just saying it doesn't matter where you at. It don't mean it's the same. Was this a bench trial or was it a jury trial? I don't know. It was a jury trial, but go ahead. It was a jury trial. Okay. So then the other question would be, what were the mitigating circumstances that led to the stabbing? I heard you kind of play the video before that somebody else was breaking down. I don't know how she, if she was quoting the facts or not, but you have to know what that story is and get the totality of the circumstances to say, hey, if it's the same or not. But either way, you still have a different factor of the attorneys.
Yeah.
It's a difference when you got fucking 2-Bit Willie representing you and you got Johnny Cochran representing you. Two different things. Resources, testimony. Who testified? Was there a psychiatrist that testified? Was it a doctor that testified? I don't know all of the details of the trial, so I couldn't say that. Looking at the numbers and looking at just the black and white of it, it does look unfair. Absolutely. Kids a year older, stabbed, classmate, stabbed, another kid at a track meet. Why he got 35? Why he got 10? It's a great question to ask, but there's no way to justify just off of that to say it's two different standards of justice because we don't know all of the details and the facts of the case.
Yeah. And one thing I think that people do is they hang their hat on these type of situations, which is comparative notes, right? That this kid, Casey Addison, and what was she's actually right. If you want me to play the video again, I will play it. But she's actually right that there was a melee. They made an agreement to get up and fight, or to meet up and fight. Karmelo Anthony and Austin didn't agree to a fight. Yes, the shove, some people may say the shove is an agreement to fight, but no, right. I don't see it that way.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that too. I mean, when you take those things into consideration, you look at it and say, okay, so these kids wanted to fight. How is this the same then?
Exactly.
Because I mean, looking at the facts of the case, the other kid just wanted him to leave. He didn't want to fight him. He wanted him to leave. He didn't want to leave.
Yeah, and in testimony,
the whole different impasse as opposed to saying, "Yeah, you disrespected my girl at the prom a few days ago. I got to whoop your ass now. I got to send you to the hospital now." And all it's like those are two different circumstances coming from two different places. So it's like if we are in mutual combat and we are looking to fight and something happens, then yeah, it's gonna be different. However, this got escalated, and the way that he escalated wasn't justified. If I slap you, you can't pull out a gun and shoot me. That's just how that shit goes. As much as you may want to be, you may be upset about it. I can't do that. And if I do that, there's consequences for it.
Yeah. Well, there is. But there's I want to say this probably for Illinois law and probably everywhere else, right? And I'm going to bring this up. There's a little nuance to that, right? Yes. If me and you, let's say me and you, Brian, we actually decide we're going to fight, right? And you get the best of me. You start whooping my ass. Hey, I'm sorry, I stopped. But if you come at me again, at that point, I think at that point I can use deadly force.
Yeah, and that's if you pull back in good faith. If you like
good faith,
there you go. If I'm trying to retreat,
good faith, then yeah, that's
if you're trying to retreat, there you go. I'm just saying, but when you're talking about being here in Texas, they're staying your ground. I don't have to have a duty to retreat. I don't have to try to get away. I can warn you and say, hey, man, I don't want to fight you. Get away from me. I'm afraid of you. I'm laying groundwork now to where I can escalate.
Yep.
I told him I was definitely afraid of this man. I said, man, I'm very afraid of you, man. Please leave me alone. Please don't touch me. Please get away from me. And at that point, I ain't got to back up. I ain't got to go nowhere. But if then he becomes the aggressor and he persists and presses his way, I can defend myself.
So
go ahead, Duran.
Tell me this. Anybody can answer. Based on other reports that I read, now, like I said, I couldn't watch the full video, but based on what I read, I understand that there was a shove and then the comment of, if you touch me and find out what happens, something to that extent. Yes. Can anybody shed light on that?
Yes, he said that. He said,
like, how you said it though. He said, if you touch me,
right, go ahead.
And then he shoved him. He said, if you touch me, then you're gonna find out. Not of those exact words, but he said you're gonna find out.
You better not put. He said, you better not put your hands on. You better not put your hands on me. Was what he said. And then I believe there was something to the effect of, if you do, you're gonna find out. Because I'm quite sure that there was some banter going back and forth, and it probably came up to, well, what you gonna do or whatever. What if I do? Then you gonna find out. And that was the thing too. People don't understand the force continuum, and people don't understand what premeditated means. The fact that he said what he said, the way that he said it, it already showed that he thought about what he's gonna do. He knew if he touched him, I'm gonna go in my bag, get my knife, I'm gonna stab this motherfucker. That's what he said, because if that wasn't his intent, he would have did a standoff with him. It's just like you pulling your gun and presenting, and then you actually and pulling the trigger. If I pull my gun as a warning, hey man, you better back the fuck up. I'm giving you fair warning on what I'm willing to do and how I'm willing to escalate. You come to me and say, I'll take that gun. Right,
Brian.
Fuck you and that gun, nigga.
Hey, Brian, let's get Duran in there. Go ahead, Duran.
Well, no. So I'm with you. So, but even if you did that and the person still came to shove you, can you shoot?
Does the person just has open hands?
Yeah.
No.
Not in Texas, no.
Okay. Now, so I agree with that. And that's also why I don't necessarily wear the fuck around and find out shirts. But because you're literally telegraphing that you're willing,
what your mindset is.
Somebody could use that against you.
Yes.
I have one, but I don't wear it out anymore. It's just like, nah, because now you're telegraphing, you're sending the energy out there, because somebody's gonna fuck around and somebody's gonna find out one way or another. So in that, again, going back to from the example that I used earlier, depending on a person's situation, disability, so on and so forth, whatever they got going on, if a shove is something that could have been considered deadly force and they use deadly force, they got to prove that. And if they can't prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, then they have issues. But under a general consensus, if it's a tussle, you never want to escalate beyond. So how that got to that point, I'm not sure. But and somebody said we're putting adult logic to kids, which I agree, because that's a whole nother thing. But if it gets to a point of especially understanding disparity of force, if like when I'm teaching classes down here in Tampa, and I'm not trying to hurt nobody, that actually the more I train, the more sensitive I am about life. Like Now I say if somebody the size of a Tampa Bay Buccaneer offensive or defensive lineman came to fight me, that's a big disparity of force. His shove might do a little something different to me than somebody my height, 5'8", 180. That might do a whole lot. That punch might do a whole lot different to me. Now, if it's more than one person, that's my size that's coming to me, Joe, I may need to defer to you to give me the definition. I could Google it, but I'm in the middle of talking right now. The definition of assault and the definition of battery. Now, to my remembrance, I think assault could be verbal. So somebody could verbally say, like, give that verbal threat of assault, like, hey, I could do this to you. And it's only really a actual threat. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, if they have the means to carry it out. So if I have more than one person coming to me, like I have multiple people coming to me and saying, I'm gonna fuck you up, yada yada, whoop 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 whoop. There's a disparity of force there to where this could escalate to great bodily harm if both these people put their hands on me.
So
go ahead, Brian. But I wanted to address that question, and actually that's gonna be a topic. But go ahead, Brian.
So you kind of like are helping the defense of the victim, because like you said, talking about physicality, women get afforded that. A woman who's 5'8", 127 pounds, going up against a man who's 6'5", 260. There is a size discrepancy there, and that man can literally overpower that woman with ease. There is no struggle. There is no fight. There is no balance of, hey, she can do this, she can do that. With a man being 20 pounds or 30 pounds difference, that's not a huge disparity to where you can escalate force. So you're talking about teenage boys, and let's say that the other kid, that's the victim, one that died, let's say he is physically bigger than Karmelo. It would be all the more reason for him to retreat as a child if he felt threatened, as opposed to confronting someone who is physically that overpowering over him. So when you're talking about those different aspects and the different nuances of escalating in the force continuum, once you introduce deadly force, you have to be able to prove that deadly force was imminent to be done upon you, and a shove would never justify that.
Yep. Joe, go ahead.
I'm going to go back to the pacemaker. In Texas, anyway, the law provides for that. It lowers the threshold of when you can use deadly force. If, say, an elderly person, someone who has that is compromised, right? Then it's deemed reasonable that someone with a pacemaker and there's the same size disparity that was in this case, then it would seem reasonable at that point. So you are allowed to use you may not know I have a pacemaker, but I know I have a pacemaker, so I know that any physical damage you could do to me could be my life. So it kind of lowers the threshold. I don't know that the disparity really holds up in this because, yes, Austin Metcalf was a linebacker, but so was Karmelo Anthony. He also played football. There was some size disparity, but I don't think enough in this case that matters. So, yeah, the law does provide for the facts of what you speak of, that someone may be compromised and it may not be apparent to the others around, but the law still allows for that for it to be considered reasonable. I just don't think that condition doesn't exist in this case.
Just a really hold up, Corey. And this ain't arguing nothing.
No, go ahead.
My point was, to my understanding, and y'all correct me, I thought it was more than one person. I thought it was Austin and his twin brother that approached them.
No. Well, hold on. Okay. Go ahead, Joe. You got it.
There were several. I think remember, he's from another school, and he comes under their tents, kind of like going on the other dugout in the baseball team, right? So everybody's kind of talking to him about leaving. It was Austin who was the team captain that stepped up to push him out or to get him out, even put hands on him. But Austin was the only one that put hands on him. But there were others that were standing up. And you could use that as far as intimidation. I think you can add that into the calculus. But even with all that added, in accordance to the law in Texas, it just falls short. It just doesn't get there. And in Texas, we don't have assault and battery. We only have one murder, by the way. We have no degrees of offenses in Texas. It either is or it isn't. But in Texas, assault is quite simply, if I reach up with my finger and I touch you on your shoulder and it's unwanted, that's assault. It would be a Class C assault. If I put my finger, I reach up and I thump your ear, that could be a Class A assault, causing bodily injury. Because bodily injury in Texas is described as, did it hurt? Did it cause pain? I used force, I assaulted you and it caused pain. It keeps increasing until it gets to the level of serious bodily injury, deadly force. If you believe someone is about to assault you, and it's reasonable to believe that they are going to exert enough force to cause serious bodily injury or death to you, it doesn't matter what you use. It doesn't matter if you use a knife or a brick, you can defend yourself. In Texas, I don't actually. I have no opinion on this. I'm going off what I see the jury has said and what the law says. And my whole point of this is I see where the jury got to where they're at. It's really hard to overcome the knowingly, intentionally on the murder in this case, in particular with the fact sets. That's all I'm saying on this. But yeah, there were others there, but his brother, it was never testified that his brother laid a hand on. And I don't recall any testimony that the twin brothers said anything to Karmelo Anthony. The interaction that was testified to was between Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. And one of the last things that Austin Metcalf said, "Hey man, just leave. I don't want to fight you."
There is. That was in the testimony. Let me address this. We're talking about kids. Unfortunately, at 17, he's not considered a kid anymore. We're applying adult logic to kids at a school event. Well, we apply adult logic to kids when we expect them to drive. We expect them to do anything else, but then now we don't expect them to be adults, and especially at 17, because just 1 year later, he's flying that coupe, or he can fly that coupe. So I don't see how you can make that correlation that he's just a kid. He was 17 years old. He made a bad decision. Yes, this is going to cost him 35 years of his life, but it was a bad decision. Anyone else want to address that?
Well, I just want to go say, he was 17-year-old. You can be charged as an adult, but I mean, both these were kids, man. You're not your full grown self at 17. I agree with that.
No, I concur. And even just as I ask people all the time, it's a different topic, but related just because we're talking about age. The difference of a 14 and 15-year-old is what? Height. The difference between a 15 and 16-year-old is what? Legality. So even when on the flip side, the creepiest people in this country, pedophiles, they say, oh, well, if they 16, they're adult, they legal. And it's like, no, a kid is a kid. I really kind of draw a line like, yo, a kid is a kid. Hell, if they still got teen in the age and you of a certain age, even though they're an adult, that's a kid. So it's like, I get what you're saying. I from the criminality standpoint, like what responsibilities we place upon them. But even that kid with the driver's license, they still got a curfew. You know what I'm saying? Like it's still other things in place there.
Yep. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Because the thing is, it's not about necessarily a kid being a kid. The fact is, this is exactly why they don't allow knives and guns on school grounds, so that this won't happen. Because that's the whole thing. At worst, if they abided by the rules of the school and school grounds, and Karmelo knew that knives were not allowed to be on school grounds because he done did the shit before and got caught, but he insisted on doing it. Had he not had that knife, he wouldn't have acted the way that he did. He wouldn't have done what he did. And at best, the worst case scenario, he would have got into a fight, and he both would have walked away from it. That's the whole thing. So this is exactly why you don't want kids to have guns. You don't want young people to have knives. You don't want them to do that because they are not always going to make the right decision, just like a 35-year-old person who just got a gun and is in the right situation under the right circumstances will still make the wrong decision. So it's a thing about deciding and knowing how to decide and how to escalate. If you don't know what the force continuum is, you can't apply it. That's why they make the rules the way they make them. That's why an 8-year-old can't have a knife. That's why a 7-year-old can't have a gun. You can take them and they can have a rifle and go hunting, but they can't carry a pistol because of that. Because that 8-year-old kid who gets his Pokemon taken, Brian, he just might kill somebody.
Hey, Brian, we got 12-year-olds that's carrying guns here in Chicago. Just throwing that out there.
Hey, real quick.
Are they carrying how, though?
And for what it's worth, the concept between kids and carrying on school grounds is the difference of what is it? 22 years, if I'm not mistaken. So it wasn't illegal for minors to buy guns until 1968, bro. It wasn't illegal for you to be able to bring weapons onto school grounds until 1990. Now, if you think about what was going on in the 60s, as far as why they stopped letting minors carry guns, because it's a bunch of other things that was going on.
Yeah, and at that time too, it was still illegal. There were kids who went and worked in factories at 8.
And we talking about
you gotta go a little further back for 8-year-olds in factories, Brian. A little
Just
further
saying.
back.
The point is, at one point in time, one point in time, it happened.
No,
I mean, but that's not a justification of saying because it was back then, it would be okay now.
No, because thank you. No, that you going way extreme. Our constitutional rights are our constitutional rights.
I'm going way extreme. You just talked about how kids in 1968 was able to carry a gun, and we talking about a kid who carried a knife to school that knows he's not supposed to.
No. So hear me out. How many? So between the 50s and 60s, and this is just go look this up. I'll give you the link. Researchgate.net. In the 50s and 60s, I want to say, actually starting in the 40s. I think between the 40s, 50s, and 60s, I think we had one mass shooting. Before 1968,
not true. There's mass shootings started back in 1920.
I will show you.
There were mass shootings that started back in 1920. But go ahead.
I'm talking about in schools. Yeah, I'm talking about in schools. The Red Summer was a mass shooting. So in that, Tulsa was a mass shooting. We talking about it in schools. So before 1968, you could be a felon and have a gun. You could have a mental illness and have a gun. You could be on drugs and have a gun. I want to say you could be an illegal immigrant and have a gun. You could be a minor, and as long as you had the money, you could have a gun.
What about the 1934 NFA? Didn't that change a lot? If I'm not mistaken,
the NFA only basically they changed to put the tax stamp on the Thompson from General Thompson, and they started making a tax stamp citing that it was for the gangsters that was peddling, and basically Al Capone and them that was peddling alcohol during Prohibition. But if you can't stop alcohol during Prohibition, what the heck do you think putting the gun law out there is going to do? The same way they peddling alcohol, they're going to peddle the gun. So the only thing that did was the Congress, and it was challenged in the Supreme Court after 1934. And they said, well, Congress has the ability to levy a tax. But they basically put a $200 tax stamp because that was the price of a Thompson. They put a $200 tax stamp on suppressors, any other weapons, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, because they said that's what the gangsters was using. But at the same time, this was going on right during the Great Depression, which they didn't want certain classes of people, minorities and poors, to have access to firearms.
Okay, I don't understand where we going because I'm getting lost.
I was answering Corey's question, but since you brought up because you did bring up 1921, so if you don't know where we're going, but I'm taking it back up. So when we think about kids and minors having guns, and then even having guns on property, to where people are able to have guns on property, that didn't change until the Gun Safe Zone Act that Joe Biden wrote and George Bush signed. That was in 1990. And that was then also, that was challenged again in the Supreme Court. And that went from nobody could have guns in the school zone to you could only have guns in the school zone if you had a concealed carry permit for that specific state that you were in at that time. So when you start talking about, oh, well, if he ain't have a weapon, well, guns are illegal in jail, but somehow people still finding a way to stab each other. Guns are illegal in the UK, but they have literally, Idris Elba is making a documentary about taking the points out of kitchen knives. When people want to hurt somebody, they will find a way to hurt somebody. Illinois was the last state to issue concealed carry permits. And somehow Kanye, what was that, 05 when he made graduation? And he said last month, Chicago had over 600 caskets. So how is it that this place that don't even offer concealed carry permits, and you need a permit just to even purchase a gun, so they ain't got open carry. So no legal person could be outside or conceal carry their gun, but now they got all this gun crime. So when you said, oh, well, he shouldn't have been up there.
You preach it to the choir. You preach it to the choir.
It's like that don't make sense. That don't compute, bro. And it's our
okay, well, I still don't understand. Wait, I'm saying I heard everything that you said, but I still don't understand the point that you're making, because you're trying to say, well, what they used to do back in '68 wasn't too long ago than what they're doing in 2026. How does that matter if the law is the law? At one point, shit, you couldn't drink out of a certain fucking water fountain. What does that have to do with what we're doing today? That's the point I'm trying to get to.
Here's what we got going on today. We got laws in place. Some of them break our constitutional rights. Now, when we look at these laws also, and we say, oh, well, if he ain't have a knife, you don't know what would have happened. We can only hypothesize about what would have happened.
No, I do know. He wouldn't have gotten stabbed in the chest if he didn't have a knife. That was the point, because that's how he died.
Okay, so people don't stab people with other stuff?
He would not have gotten stabbed with a knife. I do know that's a fact.
Yeah,
if he didn't have a knife, you can't get stabbed with a knife. We can play if was a fifth all day long, but we do know that's a fact. If I did not have a knife, I wouldn't have gotten stabbed with a knife.
I said I agree with you.
Okay.
So my point to that though is, okay, if he wouldn't have got stabbed with a knife, but he was still stabbed him with something or use any kind of other weapon, maybe choked him to death, what would the excuse be then?
Then it would he was in an actual fist fight. That's what I'm saying. That's not a fist fight, and getting choked in a fist fight, that is not the escalation of force to go to a deadly weapon. An armbar, or choke slam, or if I did a sickle or any type of other wrestling move, I suplex somebody. That's me hand-to-hand combat. The minute I pull out a knife, I'm now escalating. Period.
Let me ask you this.
Club,
and I'll rest real quick. Let me ask you this: have you ran track before?
I've never ran track.
Have you played any sport?
Yes.
What have you played?
Baseball, football.
Okay. When somebody cleats you in baseball or cleats you in football, depending on where they cleat you, could that be considered deadly force?
What?
No, because if I get cleated in a game, that's a penalty. I can't go and press charges because I've chosen to play the game.
Okay, I think you're missing my point, or I may not be.
Nope, I'm not. You said if I get cleated in a game, depending on how I got cleated, can I go to jail or could I be deadly force?
Let me address that. So when I played football, I even had a fight on the field. Punched the guy in the helmet, which was dumb, but hey, punched the guy in the helmet. I didn't go to jail.
Now, if you know why though? If both y'all had y'all helmets off and you took your helmet and you swung it at his head, would that be a difference?
Do you know why you
use your helmet for deadly force purposes?
Are we escalating now? Not a weapon, not a helmet turns into a weapon?
That's my point. I'm saying you could literally use just about almost anything as a deadly weapon.
But you can't use a knife.
You have chosen to play the game. Do you realize that referee that threw that the penalty flag and hit the guy in the eye and the guy lost his eye? The referee didn't go to jail?
That's a different mitigating circumstance.
No, he didn't go to jail. That man lost his eye. He could have pressed charges. You know why he couldn't? Because they've chosen to play the game. Now, if I'm walking down the street home from practice and I take my helmet and I bash somebody's skull in at the bus stop, totally different because that person has not chosen to play the game.
I think in Duran's scenario, that if two football players chose to play the game, I agree. But at the point where the players come off, it's not standard for you to play without your helmet, or if he uses the helmet as a weapon. Yeah, I think it might as well be a knife at that point. I think the charges could be the same. Now, if you're playing the game and you tackle someone that injures them, no, there's no knowingly, or really the knowingly and intentionally are very important. They're not there when the referee throws the flag. He didn't know throwing the flag was going to hit the guy in the eye. He didn't intend to hit the guy in the eye. It just happens in the course of the game. But none of that comes to play in this Anthony case. None of it. He was never charged with having or having a knife. The only charge was murder. There was no other crime that they trespassing. None of that was brought up. But
look at the comment there. In comparison to using deadly force in a situation where the other party doesn't want to fight, and I think that's important. I think that's important, especially in this case when we look at the fact that Austin was trying to tell him to get out the tent, and people were telling them to get out the tent. It was said that they told him over 15 times to get out the tent. Now, did it go to that? Do I keep a count of how many times I told somebody something? No, but that may be a guesstimation, and all it was egos. His ego got in the way. That's how I feel. His ego got in the way to where you just couldn't walk away from a situation. To anybody, what's the first thing? What's some of the first things that we teach in class? To Duran, one of the first things we teach, or one of the most important things we say, what's the number one gunfight that you will win every single time?
The one you ain't there.
The one you avoid, the one you ain't there, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That kid could have did that same thing.
And honestly, I put the onus on both.
How was that?
So on one side, to me, like in this particular situation, I'm not looking, and for answering this part, I'm not looking at race. If me and you are on the same, we on opposing teams, whatever, and you come over and you say, get from under my tent. You not no adult. You have no authority over me. Even the fact that you feel like you can come push me, nah, you should go get somebody of authority to move. If I'm not moving, go get somebody of authority. Because just like we teach our students, you not the police, you ain't got authority over nobody, especially if they not in a place. Like if you don't have legal authority over that place where you in, then you need to go get somebody to take care of that situation for you. So the fact that
Austin, say that statement one more time. Say it.
Like if you don't have legal authority to be like, if you don't have legal authority over that place where you are. So for example, I could tell you to leave my house, but me and you both at Starbucks, I can't get up and make you leave Starbucks.
Okay.
Unless I own that Starbucks.
You can be asked to leave. You can be asked to leave.
Yeah, from a Starbucks employee. You know what I'm saying? I can ask you to leave.
That's not even a person of authority. The person of authority would be a police officer.
No, I think you're right. The agent of Starbucks, because it's private property, could say, "I want you to leave." Then they can call the police and have that enforced.
Yeah. So the people that have the legal authority over that, thank you, Joe. They could ask you to leave, but you have no legal authority to tell me to leave Starbucks. Now, if you got an issue with something I'm doing, just like if somebody just decided to bother you, let's say you wear a hat that somebody didn't like, and they told you need to leave. You're going to look at them and laugh like, yo, watch out. You know what I'm saying?
But I get what you're saying.
So my point in that is,
okay, go ahead.
My point is, with Austin, he could have got somebody. It's unfortunate. He should not have had to die just because he pushed somebody. He should not have had to die.
So shoulda, coulda, woulda, and then still, he went and got an adult. He tells him get out the tent, and then Karmelo tells him no. Or wants to fight back and say, if you touch me, see what happens, and he stabs him.
So
hold on. No matter the authority.
I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. I'm misunderstanding.
Okay.
I'm not following you. I misunderstood what you said.
So let me clarify. I heard that part. But let me clarify. So like I said, Austin leaves and goes to get an adult. Right? Go get the adult. The adult tells him leave from under the tent. He still disobeys, doesn't listen, which is still a factor. And he says, touch me and see. The adult in the situation or the authority in the situation, and he still stabs someone, or he stabs the adult or the authority in the situation. Does that change the factors? No.
Yeah, it does, actually, because working in the murder. No. So, and this is what you're missing. I understand what you're saying. So let me acknowledge that. I understand what you're saying. But when you work in a school system like that, I used to work for intercollegiate athletics. I used to do stuff with the NCAA. Track was one of my sports. I did it for D1 schools. If you don't put your hands on those kids, even when they're adults, I mean, when we see Coach Knight grabbing somebody and yanking them all over the place, like that's wild, right? But especially in high school, you can't touch them kids. So even if you grab an adult, just like my wife works at a school, if she can't touch them kids, she could go get deputy. She could go get the school resource officer. But she can't touch them kids. So you go get the other person, because his whole thing was, you touch me, watch what happens. And generally, people respond to that when they don't see it as proper authority or proper resistance. So
proper authority. Even go ahead, Joe.
This is the thing that I just don't understand. How the responsibility of the person with the deadly weapon is exempt from accountability.
Hold up.
I'm just saying I'm not saying you in particular. I'm just saying the narrative is that everybody is trying to find an excuse for Karmelo Anthony and what his actions led up to. And all I'm saying is, if you're in a situation to where you feel threatened as a kid, as a 17-year-old young adult, whatever you want to call it, you're going to do one or two things. You're going to fight or you're going to flee. That's it. And the reason why he didn't flee was because he had a knife, which shows that's why he intended on using it when he said what he said. So it's like, if that's the case, if that's the level of confidence he had in himself in a tent full of enemies, in a tent full of bullies, why are we still trying to find out for him in what he did? Because he did it. And that was his intention. He literally did what he said he was going to do. But we're trying to find a way to justify what he did. And in Texas, you can't do that.
Let me ask you this really quick. And you said you're talking about the general public, right? Okay. Because I was going to say, I don't think none of the four people here are justifying what he did. I'm saying there are instances to where it could be justified. But even in what it was that I was just saying, I said both parties are at fault. Austin didn't have to do what he did. And unfortunately, even though it wasn't the worst decision to make, unfortunately, you don't know the level of where somebody's going to take it. So if you don't have to go there with them, if you don't have to put your hands on them, if you could avoid that situation and back up and de-escalate and say, you know what, you don't want to move? Cool. I'm going to go get somebody. I had them move you, or, you know, whatever. Karmelo situation, he's at fault for what he did. So, and even thinking of the concept of, go ahead.
But the thing is, why we're not giving onus to Austin? Because Austin's dead. That's why we're not saying, because I'm trying to honor the dead, right? I'm not sitting there saying that Austin should have did this and that's why he had to die. No, because Austin's not coming back. Karmelo, after 35 years, can still be a free citizen. That's the biggest thing. And we can, if you're trying to say that it was his own fault that he died, I don't think you're trying to say that, but it's going to that level of saying that it was his fault that he died, when in all actuality, he came into the situation and said, hey, could you leave the tent? Could you leave the tent? Could you leave the tent? We need you to leave the tent. All right, now it's a shove. Now it's a push. And now if you touch me, you're going to see what's going to happen.
So,
right?
So here, let me clarify. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I just like to participate, actually. The idea, if Karmelo Anthony had taken the backpack and swung it like a sack of potatoes and hit Austin, and he'd fallen off the bleachers and killed himself, and it killed him, I'd say that you got self-defense was in play. I think a reasonable person wouldn't have believed that I used the backpack because there was a slight size disparity, not enough to really use a deadly weapon, but enough that I was swinging the backpack. That seems proportional. All that matches up. But when we start talking about Austin should have done this and he should have went and gotten an adult. This is, by the way, they struck the three educators is for this line of thought. You should have gotten an adult. The victim should have handled this differently. All that is to take some of the responsibility off of Anthony. And I just don't think the law is not going to do it. There's no provision in the law for that. It was either provoked or unprovoked, or it was either proportional or wasn't proportional. The jury in this case decided that it wasn't.
So let me ask you this, and this is to the panel itself. So I like that example you just used with the backpack. So there was a push. If Karmelo swung his backpack, hit him, he lost his balance, hit his head just on some crazy accident, he would not be any less dead. Now, would we say Austin played a role into a situation that led up to his death? If they came out as self-defense, would we say
I get you. I don't think it changes. I think Austin's culpability remains the same in either situation.
And that's I agree with you.
The difference is being dead one way. And it's what I tried to say earlier. It's very important to understand the words knowingly or intentionally. You don't get knowingly or intentionally if I swung a backpack because this guy's bigger than me. But you do get knowingly and intentionally when you take a knife out because this guy's bigger than me and you stab him in the chest because he touched you. So I'm saying you can't really compare that. And anything to do to say that Austin should have done something else or Austin should have been, find a way to blame the dead kid, really just takes the responsibility away from deadly force was used in response to regular force.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Brian. Oh, well, I thought you was done.
Oh.
Are you done, Brian?
I'm about to say something, pass it right over to him. And I'm just re-clarifying my point. My point is this. I never said Karmelo was less responsible. I said both people equally got into the ring. Now, one person took it a whole lot further than what the other person took it. He took it much further than it should have been taken. But both people were in a ring. Just like you said, Corey, that we teach our students, you win 100% of the gunfights that you avoid, you're not in, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, Austin walked up to a knife fight and he didn't know his opponent had a knife. Now, he had an informed decision. Touch me and see what happens. He was told, touch me and see what happens. And he ignored that threat. No matter how wrong Karmelo was, he gave him an open threat. And Austin said, all right, well, nothing's going to happen. And it sucks. It sucks. But if he wasn't in that ring, to me, it would be completely different if Austin told him, yo, get out, and Karmelo just jumped from his chair and stabbed him, because that would have been just extremely clear. Hey, I'm giving you a verbal, I want you to do this. But the fact that Karmelo gave him, hey, step into this ring, see what happens. Is it wrong? Yes, it's wrong. And I'm done.
All right. Go ahead, Brian. And then I want to get to that comment.
All I'm saying is that with the question of the backpack, that would, even though he would have caused him dying, that is what you would call a reasonable response to a threat. That's all that is. So it's not that one dead more than other. They both are dead. However, the reason why he's dead, it's not even necessarily because Karmelo hit him with the bag. Karmelo hit him with the bag. He then lost his balance. He then fell out the bleachers, and then he broke his neck the way that he fell. There are more mitigating circumstances that led to his death. So that's why if you were to compare that to that, it would be something to where you could justify, yes, that's not just straight murder, because that wasn't his intent. Because the last time I checked, book bags were not known as deadly weapons. If they kill someone, we've never heard of a person getting book bagged to death. We've never heard of a person getting robbed by book bag. It's never happened. So that would not be considered a deadly weapon. So the response would be adequate. That's all that is. So if you're talking about what somebody else is doing to the other person and saying this person has this, well, you can do that all day. But based on the letter of the law and the escalation of force, if I'm going to tell you I'm going to do something to you, to your other point, he didn't tell him it was a knife, did he? Because if he would have said that, then Austin would have responded differently. That's why he left it open-ended, because he didn't want to give away his whole card. He didn't want to let him know what he really had for him, because he knew he had a knife and was ready to stab him. He didn't let Austin know that. So it wasn't a warning saying, hey, man, if you touch me, I'm going to take this knife out and I'm going to stab your ass. Like I said earlier, if I present my firearm and say, hey, man, you better back the fuck up away from me right now, you already see my level of escalation that I presented. He didn't do that. He held that knife back as a secret fucking deadly weapon. And then once he got the push, which is what he thought, because he thought he could get away with it. That's why he did what he did. He thought, even when they were taking him to the car and they were arresting him, he asked, That's deadly for that's self-defense, ain't it? Man, get your ass in his car. The fact that you thought that, it let you know what his mind state was at that time, and it was to cause deadly or great bodily harm to Austin for touching him, pushing him, whatever the case may be. That's not the proper response.
Corey, I know you had something. I had a different example, but I know. So the example I had, we can't change the past. Austin's dead. Let's just say hypothetically, Karmelo never had a weapon on him, and they just fought. It was just a fight. He said, "Touch me and see what happens," which I don't know what your past is. I've said that as a kid. Touch me and see what happens. Got into a fight, right? So we got into a fight. If it was just a fight, is that not equally a fight? Did both people engage into the fight?
They engaged into a fight, yes.
Okay, so both participants engaged into a situation.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, Austin unfortunately engaged into a situation that was deadly. To your point, Karmelo knew what he had in his pocket. He knew what he was ready to do. I don't necessarily disagree with that point. But my point is, if we just even took away the weapon and it was just simply a fight, both of them would have got suspended because they were equal participants. They were equal participants into a situation. That's my point.
But
okay,
but Austin is not here.
But
he can't
and here's
be suspended.
Here's the other thing. There's a reasonable expectation of force in that situation. Because just like if we were both boxers in the boxing ring, and ding, ding, the round starts, and you hit me with an uppercut, and I pull a fucking knife out of my boxers and stab you. Is that a reasonable response? No, because if we're in a boxing ring, the stage is set for us to box. Being at a school function, there is no expectation of weapons. Why? Because weapons are not allowed in those areas. So to Austin's point, he would have a reasonable expectation of knowing there's not going to be knife or gunplay at a fucking track meet because I'm on school grounds. So there shouldn't be a response of a knife or a gun at a track meet, no matter what the dispute is. Same thing at a football game. Same thing at a basketball game. Nobody in a basketball game just pulls out a knife. Now, if this is above the rim and you birdie, yes, you would expect that because that's in the hood and that's what niggas do at a basketball game when shit goes left. But if I'm at my high school in an affluent suburban area,
now, hold up,
I would not expect that.
Don't pretend you ain't seen no white movies where they done stabbed the shot each other. Come on.
he just went past all that. He just went past all the facts I just dropped.
Don't pretend you ain't seen them movies too. Like, come on.
But we know. Hold on. We know. But I know what Brian's example is. We know.
He know it too. He was just like,
we know. We know. But here's the thing. All right. Yeah. So, but think about this question right here. Why didn't Karmelo get an authority if he was that concerned? He didn't have to. No. Nobody's saying that. Well, that was a question that was earlier that was brought up because I think. Yes, you are being level-headed and trying to say that both of them, there shouldn't have been a confrontation, but there was a confrontation. Mm-hmm. The facts of it is that there was a confrontation and one is dead and one is doing 35 years. That's just simple. No, I won't say mathematics, but that's just simple, right? But I don't, like I said, I don't put onus on him, especially what Brian just said, because now if I'm just expecting a fight, then that goes back to the reasonable person test, right? That goes back to the reasonable person test, because now if I shove you, it will be reasonable for you to shove me back or we will be fighting. If I pull out a knife, then you probably expected to have a knife fight and you may have a gun. What would a reasonable person do in that situation? That's how that goes.
So, and
but hold on, the reasonableness. So now Austin is the reasonable person in this one. Even if he shoved him, he should have expected a shove back or at least a fist back. Not a knife. Not deadly force.
I got you. Now let me ask you this. And we don't work for this company. We have the ability to teach classes through their curriculum. USCCA. What is it? Lesson 4, legal use of force. And they talk about you step into a bar, somebody steps on your shoe, you call them an asshole, they shoulder check you, you push them back, they fall to the floor. When they hop up from the floor, they charge at you with a knife, you pull out your concealed gun.
I know.
You shoot the attacker, right? And you shoot the attacker, right? And is this a good shoot or a bad shoot? And as they go through it, the fact that you called them an asshole, you're an equal participant. A lawyer could look at you as an equal participant. The fact that you participated into the shoving match, it can make you look as an equal participant. And then now, yes, at the point to where this person is charging at you with a deadly weapon and they're in close enough range where it's imminent, and you defend your life.
So let's be real about that situation. They put that scenario up, and this, if nobody knows, this is one of the slides that we go over in class talking about force continuum, right? Yes, I know that one, and yes, that is fine and dandy, but they are going to cover their ass, or CYA, right? Cover your ass, because they're gonna say, well, I learned this in concealed carry class, right? But is that a real life situation? It may be, right? Maybe, but is it every day?
Like that happened here in Florida.
Yeah, is it every? Florida. It's something like that happened in Georgia. The guys bumped into each other and dropped the drink and all the other stuff. Yeah, but the thing is, I can get what you're saying, that you're not the innocent party. Yes, avoid confrontation at all costs. But it doesn't seem like. But hold on. But it doesn't seem like Karmelo was trying to avoid confrontation at all costs either, right?
Exactly.
How many times do I have to say?
I know, but hold on.
I keep saying it. It's like y'all trying to convince me.
But you're not getting that. This is the reason why we're not putting onus on Austin. That's what we've been trying to say. We're not putting that onus on him because he's the one that's dead. So he wasn't expecting a knife to the chest.
And had no reason to expect that. So if I'm out in the world and I'm at a bar, if I'm out at a party, if I'm out on the street, if I'm at a restaurant, you don't know what that person could potentially have in a state where it is legal to have a firearm. So there would be an expectation for that. But as a kid in a gun-free zone, if you will, or weapons-free zone, whatever you want to call it, there's no expectation of it. So there was no reason for him to even think that this could possibly happen.
But I would say that even in the state of Texas, you take the same scenario and fact sets that we have with the Karmelo Anthony case, you put that into a bar, it still would be murder. The deadly force response is not proportional to the force that is being presented to you in this. And really, that's a shove, that's a push.
Where in the bar? Wait, you saying in the bar fight?
Even in a bar. If you get into a bar fight and whoever you're fighting pulls out a knife and stabs you, yes,
that's what
murder.
He said. Yeah, right. But yes. I'm saying he said that it's pulling out a knife, but that would be self-defense.
Well, I think you're giving a scenario off of and lawyers will do this, and they're not wrong, right? If you get into a deadly force situation, you shoot somebody, you don't want them coming back. It's like, well, before that, he said, "I hate you," N-word. And down to, oh, well, it wasn't self-defense. You wanted to hurt him anyway. It makes the case sticky for attorneys, but the law doesn't require that. You could have a verbal altercation that goes into a physical, a hands-on altercation, and one person presents a knife, the other presents a gun and kills him, and you're going to be fine. In Texas, now maybe not in some other states, but in Texas, generally, you're going to be okay. You fit within the confines of using deadly force because you were presented with deadly force, but that just wasn't. The only deadly force presented in this case was by Karmelo Anthony.
And my big point, which I keep reiterating, anybody that's listening, because Karmelo could have walked away. We could remix this whole entire situation. Should Karmelo have walked away? And me working in sports and athletics, people being under each other's tent, that's a normal occurrence. But should he have walked away? Yes. Should Austin have walked away? Yes. When I look at different situations and changing states, which also changes laws, and I got to look back at the case I was supposed to earlier, I didn't, but almost even like the Trayvon Martin situation. It was a fight that turned into somebody dying. And I always say, it shouldn't have happened that way. If there was never a fight, it never escalates. So if you're going to equally participate into something, and some people will say, well, since Trayvon's dead, he's absolved of any wrongdoing. Because he died, so he's absolved of everything that he did that led up.
That's a different scenario. That's a different scenario, right? So if you're trying to tie into what I was saying, that's a different scenario because George Zimmerman was attacked. He was ambushed.
Yes. And that's all I'm saying. It's like all I'm saying in this discussion, when we're adding those different caveats and they're not in relation to what it is that we're talking about, then it kind of makes the argument disingenuous from a point of saying, well, are we saying that this is the right thing or the wrong thing? Because if we just go off and say, well, it could have been that Austin, was Austin Metcalf, he had anger issues, and he was they was even saying he was an MMA fighter, and it's like when you throw those things in there, then now you're making the argument disingenuous because you're trying to say, well, maybe what's his name, Karmelo Anthony just got smacked 2 hours before and he was still angry from that. It's like those are circumstances that are not founded, so why introduce them just for the sake of what if?
So I think the difference is, and you're right, the difference with me bringing in other situations, which I try not to do because, again, that's why I preference it's a different state, right? Like, I ain't bring up the Rick Child situation. I ain't bring up, heck, when the ICE agent killed the lady in Minnesota. When, like, I could bring up a million different situations to where having this conversation, we never looked at the victim or the person who died, because maybe the person who died wasn't actually the victim, right? We never look at the person, in none of the other conversations that we look at the person that died and absolve them of anything that they did. And we say, well, they put them into that situation, whether right or wrong, no matter how we felt about it, whether if it was lawful, procedural, whatever the case is. I don't think, based off of what I know, and based off of the evidence that y'all are giving me, based on like what happened, it was just a shove. It wasn't a 2-on-1 type situation. It wasn't none of that. So no, a deadly force should not have been warranted in that situation. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But what I am cautious about is, especially sending a message out, because to my understanding, there's a lot of people that watch this, that people are going to have this mindset that if somebody challenges me, I'm going to step in the ring with them. And if I happen to die, because you're still dead, if I happen to die, well, I wasn't at fault. And that's why we hear people tell men, hey, if you see a domestic violence situation, stay out of that, because you might die in the process.
I ain't jumping in that shit. I tell you right now, I ain't jumping in that.
But if you jumped in, you made yourself an equal participant. Now, if you die, it's like, that wasn't his fault, because no, you.
But it wouldn't absolve your killer necessarily of being held responsible or accountable for killing you. You may say, well, you should have done that because that got you killed, but it doesn't make that person responsible for their death. It makes the person that killed them responsible for their death. And this case is really no different.
Yeah, so I never said. I said,
we get that. But I actually, you're going around like six different ways to let's make sure we find the blame that the victim did, and maybe give him some. I don't care, really. It doesn't matter. Whatever level of culpability he may have, it doesn't reach near the culpability that Karmelo Anthony had when he brought in deadly force to the equation. So if it makes Karmelo Anthony look better because Austin Metcalf should have gotten an adult, sure, whatever. He's not legally obligated by law to do that to save his life. You know what I mean? So I get what you're going with it, but in this case, there's not a lot of fault I think you can put on Austin Metcalf other than maybe go get a teacher. But and here's the thing, I hear a lot of you guys, well, I was in athletics, and it's common for them to sit in my school. from another school to come over into my tent, or for another school to come over and sit on our bench, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be probably a little more than
I play football and wrestle. And
I
even
wish
wrestling,
you would come over my dugout.
I made friends. I made friends in wrestling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And guess
But
what?
during the match,
But here's the thing. I still didn't go sit over on their
you ain't
side.
going on unless you ain't going over to nobody else's bench, bro.
When I played football, one of our rivals was Proviso West High School. Right? I went to Proviso East High School, Proviso West. That's our rival. I knew some cousins that went there because they stayed in another part of town. I knew them. I still didn't go over there. I may go over there and say hi, but I'm not staying over there because I don't know them people over there. I know the people.
And then you get asked to leave. You say, I ain't going.
Put your head down and go real quick.
You ain't doing that,
yes, sir.
bro.
I'm
not
not.
much rain or snow or sleet is out.
Exactly.
You're not doing that. And if you are doing it, that means you want that smoke. I want the confrontation.
And Joe, not picking on what you said, but I just want to ask: Did you participate?
I did.
In track and field?
I'm white and I played sports. It's amazing. I played football. I played baseball. I even played tennis, believe it or not. And I run track.
I actually.
That's not unbelievable, Joe. You just know you was good.
I pegged you for basketball.
Well, I really wasn't good in track. I hated track. I kind of sucked.
You to me, you came across more so as a basketball player of baseball. I would have gave you one of those.
I can't play basketball to save my life. I am white. I can't play basketball.
But yeah, no, and again, because I know y'all hear me, as you said, I'm saying it 6 million different ways, but every time I say it, I'm getting the same response as if I'm saying Karmelo's innocent. And that's not what I'm saying.
By the way, I'm not taking it that way. I understand what you're saying. And I will even take your argument up that there are a lot of things Austin could have done to prevent this. But I think when it comes to the death part, that's where his culpability ends. He had no expectation that this is what he was walking into.
And let's just say he had serious wounds from his injury. He didn't die. And this is just, and I'm giving these hypotheticals just for people who are listening so that they don't go just so one-track minded. Let's just say he had serious wounds. He was in critical condition, but he survived it. Right? And when my son, he's 3.5, when he bumps his head, before I yell at him, I say, what did we learn? Right? what did you learn from the situation? Right? So in the situation where it's like, hey, Karmelo was still wrong because he used deadly force. No matter what happened, no matter what the outcome was, the force used was still deadly, right? And I would still look at Austin and say, don't enter into a ring when somebody is giving you, like, there's no threat against you. The only thing you want them to do is leave your area. Just like I tell the kids I mentor. Unless somebody's immediately a threat against you, not a deadly threat necessarily, but unless somebody's an immediate threat against you, it's okay to back up and walk away. Because if they do something stupid and a permanent decision is made, you can't undo that permanent decision. But the only thing you're going to think of in the back of your mind was, I should have walked away. I should have never stepped into that.
Well, in your scenario, you would be able to stand by Austin Metcalf's bedside and give him that and so that he understands that for the future. But Karmelo Anthony, still in the state of Texas, would have been charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and still be looking at prison on a felony suit.
That's why
it's still unlawful. It's still unlawful, kill him or not.
And one thing is, even with that, I would hope that my teammates would jump the shit out of Karmelo at that time. Because if I'm still alive, he not walking away from that unscathed.
But just think, the reason why they didn't though is because that's not that type of environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they would have never thought in a million years that would have happened. Now, if I was at Percy L. Julian and this was Finger, or if I was in the hood and it was a schooling, we absolutely would have. Hey man, he gonna do that? Oh no, we gonna whoop his ass. It would have went down, but because of where they are, that is totally unheard of. That ain't what they do.
And I want to make a point because I've heard this go back and forth. Yes, both these students were in Frisco ISD, but they were at completely different high schools. They were at a track meet to compete against each other. So, and once again, him being in the tent, people thought, well, that happens. Not in Texas. And I was growing up. Of course, my youngest daughter just graduated from high school. I've been around this. It'd be very strange for you to go over to an opposing team's bench warm-up tent or at a track meet, the warm-up tent, and hang out there, you're going to catch some. You're going to catch something. You're going to get some
Which is
attention.
why he was
which you
asked to
don't want.
leave over 15 times in the first place.
But
It doesn't happen.
here's a question. So since Duran, you say you did coaching or you mentored or any all that with track and whatnot. Has anything ever been stolen from someone under someone's tent?
They shouldn't have left it there. They left it unsecured, and that's the lesson they should have learned once they've lost their stuff. They should have known that they shouldn't have left it
During
there.
the time I was working in the areas, no.
Oh, I'm okay, cool. I'm not saying that but what I'm saying is this does happen. That is a thing. That's why they do have someone to guard that tent to say, hey, just step away or whatever. Because the thing is, what was testified to was Austin actually was really in charge because he was the captain. The actual adult told him, make sure nobody comes under our tent. And that's what he did.
Okay.
And I've heard this allegation that somehow or another Anthony was there to steal things. That's never been alleged officially. That's just been canon fodder that's flying around. I don't think anyone there under that tent or has since claims that Anthony was there to malice theft or anything like that. I think honestly, I think the reason he was there is still a kind of a mystery. We really don't know why exactly what was his motive to go into that tent.
Well, all right, so I think that somebody ran down the timeline, and it's still speculation till we get the transcripts. But somebody ran it down to where they went under the dugout first because it was raining off and on, and they went under the dugout first. The officials or some coaches told them to get out of the dugout, so now they start moving around. I don't know if it started back raining. I don't know if it was raining at that time, but this is when he said he seen Eddie, and he chopped it up with Eddie. Right, one of the other witnesses that said that he really doesn't know him like that, but they knew each other. And Eddie had testified that they did ask him to leave. I would say X amount of times. I don't know. I don't know if he was the one that said 15, but it was testified to that they said 15 separate times. But he came to the tent and dapped up Eddie or whatever, but he still was asked to leave. And when he got agitated, and everyone, this is one thing, even the defense, their witnesses argued, or not argued, but said that Karmelo was the aggressive one. Every person that came up there that was a witness out there said he was the aggressive one. So,
and we know why he was the aggressive one, because he had the knife.
He had the knife.
That's all to it. It's like that's just what there was. And I mean, even being in that tent just as fast, especially with him being a track star, just as fast as he ran under that tent, he could have ran under another one. He didn't want to leave because he didn't feel or want the feeling of somebody putting him out that tent. And he felt because he had that knife that he could protect himself and defend himself, and he could fight if he needed to, but they ain't putting me out this tent. That was the whole thing.
Duran, I'm gonna let you go. I want y'all to look at this, and I'm gonna talk about it in just a few. But go ahead, we'll wrap it up, Duran.
The judge, the DA, and Karmelo Anthony's case with the parent. Yeah, like stuff like that is wild.
Yeah, this is why we had that talk. But go ahead. No.
Yeah, I didn't get that question. I think you gave it to Brian once he got on. Like if he felt like it was fair, and I will make this short.
Yep.
No, but I don't think there are many court cases that happens that are completely fair because of just the human element. I mean, hell, the Central Park 5 was guilty. They even confessed to something they didn't do, and they still went to jail or whatever. There are people who are innocent who are in jail. There are guilty people who still walk in the street. Do I think his representation was the best? No. I think money was wasted. It was improperly used for other things. I think that better representation could have been there, and maybe the case could have been shaped differently. I think that there's a conflict of interest when you have either friends or you're, fraternizing. When you have that level of fraternization at that capacity. And even to my understanding, when it comes down to the jury selection, to where Like even in Rick Child's case, I don't think there was a single Asian person on the jury, right?
So,
But
wait. Why does it have to be a single Asian person on a jury?
Well,
It doesn't have to.
So you made me lose my train of thought. I had a point behind it.
I'm sorry to do that, but you said that there's supposed to be the Rick Child. There's not supposed to be. It's a jury.
I never said it was supposed to. I said, to my understanding, there was not.
Okay, well, I misheard you then. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I said literally. Yeah, okay. To my understanding, there was not a single Asian on Rick Child's jury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if there were some available and they just weren't selected. And there are a multitude of reasons why people are and are not selected. And in that also, if there were Black people that could have been on that jury, but they were removed because of race as the primary factor, I don't think that's correct.
That's against the law.
Yeah, it's against the law.
Yeah. So if that was the case, then of course, just a hard time proving, and that could be far-fetched, but it makes the rabbit hole looks a little deep when you have photos like this.
They have to go on the record when they use their strikes as what their reasons are. So I mean, it's recorded the reasons they struck every juror, not just the Black ones.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing too.
Good.
If the attorney felt that this was because all this is literally a picture. It is not just so far-fetched for you not to know a judge in your county. That is not like, I mean, you vote for them. So it's not a thing to where this is like improper for you not to know the judge or for someone in the community not to know who your judges are. These are elected officials. So you would absolutely know them. But if the attorney thought or felt as though and could prove that, hey, man, these people are so good of friends and are in such good relationship with each other that I believe that this is something that could contaminate the trial, then he could actually make a motion to have the judge recuse himself to say, hey, man, we need a new judge because they go golfing every weekend. They hang out at the club. I done seen them at the strip bar or whatever the case may be. They could literally do that. And the fact that they didn't would lead to believe that obviously there wasn't enough evidence there to prove that. A picture taken doesn't say, hey, man, these are best friends. And they just hanging out. It could have been he was at a function to see, I would take a picture with one of the judges I voted for.
And also on that too, is that I don't see anything improper the judge did. I think the judge was very giving to the defense with both letting in the self-defense theory and I'll go back again, the heat of passion. That's a big deal, or the sudden passion. You don't see that a lot in Texas, a judge allowing that in. He insisted that the jury had that as a choice. So I don't know. So, I don't think they had a close association. I agree with Rob on that, is that I believe that if there was there, the defense would have attacked it, and that wasn't there. But I don't see anything in the. It was a pretty textbook trial. It really wasn't anything out of the ordinary.
So Joe, this is why you didn't hear the defense of Joe, Durand, and Brian. This is why you didn't hear it being brought up by the defense, prosecution, that any type of recusal, right? This is why.
How do you feel about the rumor being spread that you're friends with the judge and the DA?
I really thought it was very funny because the picture they posted was at my friend's house. We all grew up in Louisville. We all know each other. We all still stay in touch. It was a Christmas party of my friend's house here in Frisco, and every single person in that picture called me and said, "Why are we on the internet?" I'm like, "I don't know. You're supposed to be the judge. You're supposed to be the DA." They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Dude, these people will spin shit into gold. I don't know how they do it. They believe themselves. So I don't know what they smoke, but it must be some really high quality shit because I have no idea where they can come up with this crap." As far as me knowing the judges and the DAs, hell, if I did that, we wouldn't be waiting a year and a half for a trial. Your ass be going to prison in about 3 weeks. So I have no pull, no association. I've never met them before. And, you know, make up some more shit, whatever.
Hey, hang on. Is the picture we're looking at,
Okay,
that's
and
not
you don't
the
have to
judge?
answer this question if you don't want to.
He just
Was it Hunter's choice to not attend?
Corey? So the
Say-
picture we're looking at is not even the judge?
No,
It's just him and his friends.
it's him and his fucking friends.
I guess the defense couldn't get a motion through on that since it's not even the same person.
Why would you make that up and put that out there?
Let me tell you something. People are taking this and running with
they
it.
put that
They
shit
put it on
I
Facebook.
know people are putting that on their Facebook.
Yes.
I know they are.
Because when I should pull up my Facebook. I'm trying to keep the bandwidth free, right? But the one thing is, a chick was arguing me up and down, and I said, when I listened to him last night talk, I said, I got to hear if I listened to the whole live about 3 times because I got to hear if he's friends with the DA, the judge, and everything else. No, that's a complete fabrication. That's actually Austin. That's Jeff Metcalf. If for everybody that don't know, it's Jeff Metcalf. That's Austin's father. And yes, he went off last night. He said some stuff that people probably won't like, but he had that bottled up for a whole fucking year, a whole year. He had to sit on it because it was a gag order on the court, on everybody in that court that was involved. They couldn't say anything, and people spread lies. People said that's where you got a lot of these memes that came out. Then you got the comparative arguments, the case and Allison case and Karmelo Anthony case, right? All of these lies. That's why I wanted to have this live. That's why I wanted to get this out there, because so many lies have been told. That was a bold-faced lie right there, a bold-faced lie. And if you look up the judge. Now there's some similarities, right? But it's not even him. The judge has a beard now. The judge has a fucking beard now.
He did that to cover up the association. He knew there were pictures out there, so he grew a beard. So you wouldn't recognize him. He was incognito on the bench.
It don't take that long to grow a beard. It's been a year and a half. It don't take that long to grow a beard.
It doesn't change the person who's wearing the beard. Still the wrong person.
Exactly.
No, the fact that they lied is wild.
Yeah, but this has been surrounding the case. This is what I think. Before y'all came in, me and Joe talked about this. I say it all the time. The kids, they made a kid mistake, and even if the kids made a kid mistake, but it was the adults that put the gas on the fire. Case in point, I remember one time I had took my daughter to Chuck E. Cheese. She was playing around and everything. My daughter's mother was there. Right, she had her boyfriend now, whatever, and he get into it with some other dude at fucking Chuck E. Cheese. They about to fight in that. They over what kids were doing, being kids, having fun, bumped each other, started arguing. Then the adults jump in. This is about to be a fight. Police come, and I'm standing outside. And at the time, I smoked Newports, and I was standing outside. And guess what? Police came out there and said, "Shit. We see more fucking fights at Chuck E. Cheese than we see at the local fucking bar."
Yep.
I laughed with them too. I said,
"Yep."
Because guess what? The adults in this situation, these are the adults that are out here on the internet running free with anything that they see. That reminds me of, I wish I had that picture. There was another comparative note that they used. I'm going to see if I can try and send it to myself, put it up, and you all can see it. But they don't even know the particulars of that case. This guy put it up. He wanted to try and prove a point on my post. Didn't even know that. So it was a black guy and a white guy. Comparative notes, right? Black guy and a white guy. Well, the black guy wound up fighting the case, getting like 26 years or something like that. The white guy didn't fight the case, and he actually copped a plea and got 2 years. That was the nuance in the case. So a lot of people are saying, well, look, they did the same crime, but they don't tell you the facts of the fucking case because they don't know it. They just seen a fucking meme and just took it and ran. That is a perfect example right then and there, what I showed you all, that that I showed you all. But we're going to start to wrap it up. We're going to start to wrap it up, and I'm going to get a final word. I'm going to get a final word to Duran, Joe, and then Brian, and then I'm going to give my monologue.
All right, so my final word is take the time to develop emotional intelligence. Take the time to learn de-escalation. Take the time to remove pride. Understand neither God or the law protects revenge. In that, I would say always understand on one side, if the fight's not worth it, it's not worth it. You never know how far somebody else is willing to take that fight. On the other side, if somebody's bringing something to you, it's okay to remove your pride and figure out a way to get out of that situation, because you don't know how far that person's willing to take it. But what you can bet is if you are doing everything you can to avoid that situation in totality, that 9 times out of 10, you ain't got to be in it. So learn, practice. You get good at what you practice. Learn de-escalation, practice de-escalation, practice emotional intelligence, and just as much as you can, learn how to remove your pride from situations. It's okay. We are human. We are going to fall victim into just some of that. But the situation is unfortunate. And the number one thing outside of what I just said we can learn from is you win 100% of the fights you are in.
Thank you, sir. Where can they find you at?
My @ is on the screen across all social media at lmb.theeducator. On Facebook, it's Tactical Education and Defense. And I'm in the Tampa, Florida area.
Thank you. Hey, Joe, do you have a promo for your show? I'll run it at the end. Put it up there?
I can load that up.
All right,
you know,
Joe,
for me, I want to keep it to the Anthony case, and this is something that Corey and I talked about back when this first happened. That this got blown all way out of proportion, and the more after it's over with, the more we learn now. We find out even, there's fake pictures of people with judges that aren't judges. But at the end of the day, I think they really hurt Karmelo Anthony in the Texas justices. I'm in the North Texas area. I think a plea bargain would really put him in a top range of about 20 years, and he could have been out of prison sooner. But when you look at the elements of the offense on this, there's no other way to look at it. You can have all the want tos, and this could have happened, and this should have happened. At the end of the day, law doesn't matter. And if you don't understand the law for self-defense in your state, you should go read it. You should read it, because when they try you, that's the only questions that are going to be on the document. That's the only thing they're going to ask the jury to decide. In this case, they didn't ask the jury to decide if he had a knife or it was legitimately had the ability to have a knife. They didn't ask the jury that. They didn't ask the jury if he had right to be in the tent or not. There was not a question for the jury. They didn't ask the jury about skin color. They didn't ask about any of these things. They asked something very simple. And the reason I brought this up earlier in the show, because it's very important in this case, and you can't get around it. I don't care which side you sit on, that in Texas, you are guilty of murder if you knowingly or intentionally cause the death of another without justification. Now, the justification they argued in here, but I'll say they didn't argue it very well. But in this case, you can't get around it. Karmelo Anthony did cause the death of Austin Metcalf. And to wrap it up, this is a tragedy for both families that we'll forget. By Thanksgiving, we'll be off in our own thing. But the Anthony family and the Metcalf family, they won't forget this. It'll be there for them in the morning. It'll be there when they go to bed.
Where can they find you at, Joe?
I'm on X, YouTube, all your social medias at Joe_Lanew, LNU, Lanew. Do a lot of work on X, and you can catch my grand jury on Fridays. Every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we do the 2-hour show, The Grand Jury. We take a look at the use of force, and we ask 5 volunteers to make the decision if they thought it was reasonable or not.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing here with this whole entire case and the biggest takeaway I would like to see is that we all take a page out of just learning and knowing the law. Because wherever you live, you should know what those laws are, especially when you decide upon to take the decision upon yourself to carry a weapon, whether it be a knife or whether you decide to carry a gun, whatever the case may be, you need to know the law and know what your state and local laws are so that you know how to govern yourself. Because I think that was the biggest thing in the mistake Karmelo made. He didn't know the law and he didn't know how to govern himself accordingly. It's like there are certain ways in order to do that. And if you feel as though you are being threatened, or if you feel as though that you need to protect yourself and you need to escalate on how you do that, because I am definitely a person that truly believes nobody should be able to tell you how to protect yourself, but you definitely better do it within the letter of the law. And that's the biggest thing that he missed. And it wasn't, you want to blame his parents, you want to blame his father, and you want to blame him. But at the end of the day, when you take on that responsibility of wielding deadly force, you damn sure better make sure you know the law so you know how to wield it. Because just because you can does not mean that you should.
Thank you, Brian. What can they find yet?
You can find me at The Relationship Rehab on YouTube, on Rumble, and also you can find me at Relate Better on Twitter and The Relationship Rehab on Instagram.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to drop you out. I'm going to go down. Joe, did you want me to play your promo?
Yeah, it's loaded up when you're ready to do it.
Okay. I'm going to play it right now. Then I'll go into it.
It's a good promo.
What is it at? That's the question.
GJ intro, you see it down there? At the very end?
No. Okay, I see it now. There we go. All right. I'm blind. Sorry. All right. Well, wait. What was it? All right, people. I want to thank everybody that came through. I want to thank everybody that came and watched. I appreciate it. 277 people that I see so far. I'm growing. We're growing. I'm glad that you all came and heard all of it. Duran, no hard feelings. Joe, no hard feelings. I think we got through the tough part and we made sure that we hammered down on our points. But I want everyone to think about this, right? My mother always taught me this one thing, very much so. She said that trouble is easy to get into and hard to get out of. That 1 second or the 2 seconds or 10 seconds it takes for you to make a bad decision will cost you a lifetime of hurt and pain. Karmelo Anthony is going to have to deal with it for 35 years. 35 years. Parole after 17. And I don't think he will ever be done paying for it because after 35 years, he has to live with the stigma of being a felon. can't possess firearms. You know, he's probably going to be limited on where he stays. You know, and maybe the laws have changed at that time. But he doesn't live a normal life anymore. Because of ego. Whether you can say it's on Austin's side or you can say it's on Karmelo's side. But because of ego, there's one kid dead. There's one that's in jail. Except for the one that's in jail gets to come home. He gets to stay alive. All because of a few seconds. A bad decision. So that has always stuck with me in life, and I had to learn sometimes the hard way. Trouble is the easiest thing to get into, but the hardest thing to get out of. My mother always said, if you do some devious stuff, they got a place for you. You want to break the law, you want to keep not listening and everything else, they have a place for you. Now, it doesn't sound nice, but it is a thing. It's true. You don't want to conform with the law, whether you know it or not, they have a place for you. Now, those are two kids that made a mistake. The adults in the situation, the grifters, the liars, and it come from both sides. White, black, Democrat, and Republican. Don't care. Don't care about your feelings. You had people that were trying to put together rallies for Austin Metcalf in the name of racism. Yes, I call it out. And I'll tell you right now, and I stick to this probably to the day that I die. Fuck Jank Lane. The preacher that was, I guess, advising the Anthony family, fuck him too. So last night when I seen Jeff Metcalf talking, he let it all out. I felt him. He had to, because all of the lies that came behind it. There's so many lies that came out of this. The adults weren't the adults in this situation. You were being just as tribal as kids can be. Some of you all are kids raising kids. Some of you all never really grew up. A man should be able to talk to another man, even if you have a disagreement. Even if we have a fight, we should be able to come back to the table as men. Me and my wife, we have arguments. I ain't going no damn well. She ain't going nowhere either. It doesn't go to the level where she has to pull out a knife on me. Does it go to the level where I have to pull out a knife on her? Because we're adults. Some of the stuff happens with kids. Yes, we understand. But yes, those kids, when you do an adult thing, you get adult consequences. So when Karmelo Anthony stabbed that kid, that was an adult decision. It was made by a kid that has to do adult time. Thank you all for coming out.
They frame me in a picture, Sharpie horns on my head, every rumor like a scripture, they repeat what they were fed. Yeah, I'm walking through the whisper, let them burn me in their tails. I keep receipts in my ribcage, every scar, every DD. Call me the villain, paint me in black, blame every crack in your heart on my back. But when the curtain's falling and every mask is gone,